Oh, she's so polite. Why am I muting? I'm literally starting it.
You're starting this shindig.
Just sit here in silence for the next half an hour. Before we get started, this is going to be a long one.
And he found me. I was the only one out there, at least from a human perspective. There were some cows.
Let's do that again.
This is the Wayne Gretzky episode.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers.
Nice one. Cheers. I love when you get in your little English accent.
Okay, so
the prospector issue. I can't even say issue. I'm trying to say episode and I want to say issue because I have an issue apparently.
I saw that, JV. I saw it. I'm not going to say it. I'll probably still end up saying it. Send all your feedback to us at our email. My mouth stopped working. See you again in episode 101. Oh my God. Welcome to episode 99 of the Plastic Posse podcast. You'll dismount and come on in and let's talk about the best hobby out there, scale modelling. Before we get started, better give a shout out to our outriders, our Patreon supporters, especially the deputy marshals who help bring you the Plastic Posse. And also give special thanks to our podcast partners, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, and AK Interactive. I hope all of you out there are surviving the heat. I certainly am not. That's why I've bought 3 desk fans this week. And most of you are finding some time to get to the bench. Speaking of benches, let's go around the room and find out if there's any new purchases hitting the bench with any of our hosts. Scott, anything hit your bench?
Yeah, new bench. Finally got that put together with Josh Buck's help. It's a brand new 8-foot long bench. I'm really excited about it. Just waiting for a couple more things from Amazon to arrive to keep it neat and clean and organized, at least for a minute. And I got a cabinet from them without any packaging, and the cabinet got destroyed. So waiting on a new one of those. But yeah, literally my bench. So that's what I've been kind of dealing with.
Yeah, seeing some pictures, there's nothing quite like a new bench hitting your new bench. JB, what about yourself?
I've been on the road a little bit, but, you know, in terms of purchases, a few were waiting when I got back. And I actually, 2 nights ago, I made a pretty big order with B&A as well. I get in these weird kicks. Like I cornered the Mac market, 1.5 years, 2 years ago with Aaron Cook. And now I'm on this wedge kick. So I bought a bunch of Darius miniature bases with wedges on them from B&A. So I'm stoked to get those and, up my figure game. And yeah, just, in the absence of building for the time being, I have purchased a lot. I feel like every time I travel, if I go to a hobby shop, I just got to pay patronage. So I bought some stuff there, too. But otherwise, few things here and there and definitely looking forward to building more of them.
Nice. There's nothing quite like an intoxicated purchase.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes it so much easier. And then you just, PayPal, there's a balance in there. Yeah, we should use that balance because then it's free money. You don't know where that came from. So that's definitely a treat when you use your PayPal balance.
Absolutely.
And 4 jalapeno margaritas helps with any purchase.
That's wonderful. TJ, what about yourself? Any purchases for you?
Yeah, there's always a steady stream of bullshit creeping into my mailbox. The 2 major things I got were the new 35th scale Falc from Plamax, which I think is a new company. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of plastic in the box. I was a little surprised by the amount of plastic. So it'll be fun. I got 2 of them. I got one really solid idea for the one of them, and the other one's just for posterity, I think. And then I had a fairly sizable order come in from HD Models in Italy, a bunch of resin goodies, and they threw in a couple of samples for their new 3D printed US aerials that are in. Anyone that's seen like the tank aerials from World War II for US vehicles, they're in 3-foot sections. They have a threaded connector, so essentially like a hollow tube, and that's where the aerial was in. And they're 3D printed, and they're like really, 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 really fine. I haven't taken them off the the supports yet, but the owner of the company asked me if I got them. I was like, I did get them, as a matter of fact, and they look very cool. So I threw together a turret to hopefully put them on just to see how they look. And yeah, that's what I did as far as buying. And then as far as building goes, I haven't really, probably the last couple of weeks, I haven't built a whole lot. I'm getting ready to paint the M4A1 for my SMC build. It's like literally ready to go. Everything's done build wise. So I got to paint the engine compartment first. You guys can see I'm like looking off camera at it right now. It's sitting next to me on the photo booth. Yeah, and I've also been building TACOM's little 250, which is pretty cool. I'm probably like 85% done. I've got all the lower hull done. Go one run of tracks done. Need to do the other run of tracks, and then probably commit to paint before I build the top half, because like angles in to the top, so I think it'll be hard to paint. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on.
Lovely stuff. Grant, how about yourself?
Stuff coming in. Got a box from Sabat, a couple 75 millimeter figures, really cool. Some other odds and ends. Been playing with my AK pens, trying to, work those out. That's been kind of fun. Other than that, not too much coming in. I did have a little bit of a problem this week. I did blow up my 3D printer, so powered it on.
In fairness, you didn't really do it. It kind of ate itself. So
yeah, it wasn't my fault. I just turned the power on and it just kind of popped and smoked that very good blue smoke. Took it outside. It was still burning a little bit, so I had to use a fire extinguisher on it. So I'm looking for a new 3D printer. So that's my new joy in life right now. So, but that's about it. Working on stuff. I finished up a figure, or will finish up a figure today, a little bust that I did. And that's about it. That's been a quiet week for me.
Oh, lovely. So to speak about myself, which I just love doing. I bought nothing. I haven't bought anything for a little while because I haven't. SMC's coming up, so kind of need to save for that. So for what's on the bench, still got the Stuart. That just doesn't seem to be going away. Had a lot going on with family emergencies for the past 2 weeks, so not really had much time to be in here. Plus the heat. The heat's been kind of disgusting. Oh yeah, I do lie. The only things I've purchased are desk fans. Really exciting. So I don't complain too much. Yeah, the Stuart, now it's cooler in here and I might have a bit more time coming up. I'll get back on with that. Rather than return to the actual tank, I'm going to maybe just start working on the base whilst I've still got a very clear image of what I want it to look like in my head. So start making some progress on that. But I also want to really try and get through it without rushing, because I also want to enter more than one thing at SMC. This past couple of days I did register. So I'm going to try and pack as much as I can in. It's all kind of limited to how much I can fit in my carry case, really. But yeah, try and get through my Stuart build, the scene for that, paint the figures for it, and maybe just a couple of bits of armor, maybe a small aircraft, because I hate to say this, I think it's a little easier to do aircraft. I don't hate to say it. It's easier. Yeah, maybe get an aircraft done and align the competition. I really enjoy doing aircraft. I find painting and weathering them a lot more fun than armor. And weirdly, I find it a little bit more easy to understand how to do it. But yeah, that's me. So, JB, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about your fancy pants trip around the greatest country in the world, the UK.
Geez. Oh, geez. Yeah, it was great. As the listeners know, I was there a couple weeks ago and had a chance to go back. This time was for work. I spent time at the Farnborough Air Show, and I shared really what's been taking a lot of my bench time. I painted a wind tunnel model for our company, and that was a lot of fun. But while I was there, I had the opportunity to go down to Bovington. Saw Daniel Brooker there, which was great. Spent the morning with him. He met me early in the morning. I started walking from the train station in the misty Salisbury Plain morning, and he was texting me. I'm like, yeah, just look for the fat American in shorts walking along the road. And he found me. I was the only one out there, at least from a human perspective. There were some cows, but no, it was great. If you've never been to Bovington, it's an easy walk from the train station. And we spent the morning at the Tank Museum, which was awesome. Then I had lunch, and then in the afternoon, I did a lot of measurements for things that people wanted. So it was a great day. And then afterwards, after the air show, I had the opportunity to go up to Duxford, which was a lot of fun. Didn't see anybody there that I knew, but certainly saw a lot of familiar aircraft. I think I've seen more Spitfires fly at Duxford than anywhere else in my life. That is a place where if you go once, you will likely see a Spitfire fly. There was 3 unique ones that flew when I was there, and a bunch of other stuff going up as well. They took the B-17 up, which was pretty cool. Sally B, a bunch of tiger moths, dragon rapides. And again, if you've never been to Duxford, make the pilgrimage. It's another easy train ride out of London and not that far of a walk from the train station. You can pick up an Uber if you're lucky, but walking is totally cool. But yeah, both museums were fantastic. Hanging out with Daniel was great. And yeah, I would just recommend if you live in the UK, certainly go to those museums. If you're traveling to London, you can easily do each of them in a day. Take a day trip for each of them. I took one of the first trains out of London. I shouldn't say the first, but an early one. I think I left London around 7 o'clock, 2.5 hour train ride down to Wool. And then it was about a 40-minute walk over to the museum. So easily done. And then in the afternoon, just catch the 5 o'clock train. You're back in downtown London by 7:38. So you can easily hit a pub and grab dinner. And the same goes for Cambridge, near Cambridge as well for Duxford. I went up to Whittlesford Parkway. It's about an hour less of a journey, but again, the walk is a little bit longer. All in all, again, take a day on each side of a trip and go to them. So those were great museums. I think what I'll do is I'll include a kind of a traveler's guide in the upcoming Scale Prospector as this episode's being recorded. But issue 3 will be put out the week that this drops, hopefully by Tuesday. But regardless, I'll give a little traveler's guide to getting to Duxford and Bovington for those interested. It's simple. I'll keep it simple and I'll show some helpful tips. But yeah, it was a great time and I can't wait to go back. I love London. I love England. I love traveling there. Public transportation is awesome. You can certainly get your steps in as Jensen's feet are probably still recovering from the trip in 2022. But overall, awesome time. And I can't wait to go back.
Great photos, as always, from those trips and those visits to the museum. So those are much appreciated.
Yeah, it's true. Looking at all the pictures and all the references you got and all the people you met in museums you went to, all I could think of was, oh, my legs hurt.
I think I averaged 21,000 steps a day when I was in there.
That's disgusting.
Wow. I think my top day was like 31,000. So Jeez. It was a lot of walking, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was great. I will say I was the oddball out at the Tank Museum. There were some families there that were looking at me like, why is this person laying on his back taking photographs of the bottom of the weasel and measuring the tracks? So that one's for Jackson. But yeah, it was good. It's funny. I told my coworkers, I'm like, oh yeah, Saturday I'm going to go down to the museum. And I'm like, oh yeah, I brought calipers and a tape measure. And they're like, you're weird. Yeah, they're like, you're strange.
Tell us you're a modeler without telling us.
Yeah, they're like, what's in that backpack of yours? What's that little plastic thing? Oh, these are my calipers. Well, what are you doing? I'm going down to measure tank tracks. Here, look. They're like, I'm cashing out. Get this guy out of here. But no, it was a great time. And again, for those, if you've ever had a doubt, don't have that doubt. Just go. And I'm hopeful that I can make a trip back to the UK for a third time this year for Scale Model World for a quick trip.
You inspired John Bryan. I think he posted yesterday that he walked 27 miles in a day and then threw a challenge over to John Everett to meet or beat that. So.
Yeah, if anybody will beat that, John Everett will walk him to the ground.
Yeah, he's walking to the East Coast right now to, take HMS Titanic over. John understands the gauntlet. He understands the assignment. So I fully expect when we see him at SMC this fall, he will walk from Amsterdam to Eindhoven just to one up him.
I want to go back and touch on what Jensen said. This is not in the script, but he made a statement that I think might slip under the radar a little bit. What did you say? What did you say, Jensen?
Was it by any chance tell us about your time in the greatest country in the world, the UK?
No. It was before that. It was about models. You said something very controversial.
Oh, was it anything to do with aircraft modeling?
It was. It was.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's facts, not feelings. I've done both. That's just my opinion.
Well, I only bring that up because I agree with you.
I know you do.
100%. It's not even the contest. And I told a bunch of airplane modelers that the other day. Some of them are going to listen to this, and I think it touched a few nerves. And unfortunately, the truth can do that to people. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what other people think. I know what aircraft modelers think. That they don't even need to give us that opinion. We already know that they think it's the hardest thing and the best thing ever. We know that, but for other multi-genre modelers, I'm curious to what they think, because I also agree. Just like I said, Jensen, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I think, and this is one man's opinion, I think on a whole, painting and weathering aircraft is far easier than painting and weathering armor. Mm-hmm. And the main reason why is there's no mud on aircraft. There's no extreme dirt or dust on aircraft. And to me, those are the two hardest things to do convincingly on armor and not make it look like crap. I mean, you can do it. You can just throw all that crap on there. But unless you really know what you're doing, it will not look good. Mm-hmm. I can do grime and just gunk with oils and enamels all day long. That is not that hard. And paint distressing and paint, all that kind of stuff that you see on aircraft. Also, it's not that hard. Knowing what to do is the hard part, but the actual doing it, I don't find that hard. So I will caveat that typically building aircraft is, and again, not necessarily harder, but more tedious. And I think a lot of modelers kind of conflate those two terms, where the tedium of something equals hardness of it or difficulty of it. And that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. Dealing with seams isn't mechanically typically that difficult. It's tedious, sanding and refilling and priming, that whole process, which that's just not fun. But hard, I don't think it's that hard.
And I say this because when I first started modeling 2015, whatever, up until 2021, I built pretty much exclusively aircraft. So I'm not just saying it because I've built one or two and I'm just like, easy.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. You've built one and now you're a master. I've built aircraft as well. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I will fully admit, a aircraft model, like a kit, is a much more challenging effort than a armor kit. Fine, yeah, absolutely. But like, for example, I did the Special Hobby 132nd Tempest. It's known, Special Hobby aircraft are known to not be just simple kits because they are short run molds. They usually have issues. They are what they are. So anyone who's built that kit, will know. So I'm not just saying this because I love being controversial. I'm just saying it because, sometimes the facts need to be said.
Yeah. So I agree and I disagree. I think it all depends. Just like armor, I think it depends on the style of finish you're going for, because to execute like Daniel Zimabard, like that's next level. And that brings like a finish pedigree that is not typical in a finish of an aircraft. And to be fair, the same could be said on the armor side when you look at something like from, MiG. Daniel Brooker's a great example. That level of complexity, I think that's where I maybe differ, where it's really subject dependent. There's some natural middle finishes out there that I truly believe are some of the hardest things to achieve, but that's like the specific set. So in my mind, it's a little apples to oranges. And I think it's all around the depth of finish, because yes, finishing an aircraft, like wash, a little bit of post shading and you're done. That's like pretty straightforward. The same could be said about armor, but when I look at some of the unique aircraft, again, built by Daniel Zimabard, even Fanch Lubin, and the folks, another one is it Rowdy Flugzeug from Holland, like his aircraft. But again, his aircraft have a very armor flavor to them because they're usually wrecked or just in some sort of form of destruction. And that level of complex finish, I just don't think is there on a lot of aircraft models. I know that's probably going to sting a little bit, but I just don't see aircraft modeling. In a good example, walk around an IPMS show, and the same could be said for armor. Let's be honest. The level of complex finish, it's almost asymmetric between armor and aircraft. I feel like armor modelers are much more, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but they tend to push those limits in terms of, like you said, TJ, mud, dust, oil, like all those things lend themselves to be pushed further on a ground subject as opposed to an aircraft subject. And I think some of that deals with the refinement of that technique. And it's hard. I'm not gonna discount that. But I think for me, I'm given like a great non-political answer. I'm running for office. Vote for me. But for me, it definitely comes down to the finish and the subject. And I do think some aircraft finishes and subjects are harder than armor, but I would argue that we see far less of them in the wild than we do armor pieces that have been pushed further. I think you can easily go on Facebook and see armor models that have been pushed like as far as they can go with very complex techniques, as opposed to aircraft models where there's only a handful of people, I would say, and maybe I'm biased based on the exposure I get online, that are willing to push it further. I'll yield the floor to my debate partners.
So yes, like I do agree with some of the things that you were saying. It is subject dependent. You brought up natural metal finish, which is a hyper specific, style in aircraft modeling. And to me, that's probably the hardest part of aircraft modeling painting is a natural metal finish that looks like actual natural metal. I mean, anyone can spray anything, TS11 and be like, yep, all good. Not that you can't make that look fine. That's how I would do it. I'm not going to act like I would do any different. But the next level natural metal finishes, to me, that the equivalent to the armor side is like knocked out rust buckets, right? Like, yeah, you can do it, but the ones that do it well do it so much better than everyone else. Like, you can paint it brown and put rust pigment on it and be like, yep, it's knocked out. It's a rust bucket. Oh, cool. And it could probably look good. But you look at the ones that are like super, super good and just like shredded insides that look convincing, that have, it looks like the real thing, just like literally shrunk down, but then also hyper stylized at the same time. It's like a weird, combination of things. To me, that's like the natural metal finish of armor modeling. Most people can't do it very well. And the ones that do it better than do it better than everyone else, just like natural metal finish.
Yeah. Good example. I don't know if you saw Bernard Lustig just finished a Panther diorama. And it's post-war, so it's probably within, I don't know, a year or two after the conflict. But like you said, it's got a level of complexity around a rust bucket finish, but it also has that artistic flavor. But it's just it's a well-balanced model that he executed perfectly. And you mentioned natural metal finish and using a color. I'll just pick on myself. Musaru Cup. I loved painting the Mustang, but it's purely AS12 and I masked off some panels. But when I look back at that, I'm like, if I had to do it again and I want to do a natural metal finish again, it's what's that next level of patina that really pulls out the natural metal, because that's the thing that I think is the separator between, okay, yeah, that's a natural metal finish. And then like, oh, that is a true natural metal finish when you start to think about how, again, the patina, the dings, the scratches, the oxidation, like that level of depth is rarely found with a natural metal finish. Mine was, again, a couple colors, polished, post shaded, but I want to think about like, how do you chip it? One gentleman, when I was building my P51, and I feel bad because I don't have his name off the top of my head, but he built two Arma Mustangs, and one of them, he used like a sponge chipping of natural metal on top of natural metal, and it created this wicked sweet patina. I was like, holy shit, I want to do that. Now, I didn't have the guts to do it on my first one, but that's something I certainly want to do on my next.
Yeah, Brian's really good at that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Brian Kreiner is a perfect example of what a natural metal finish, I'll say it, should be. I mean, his are exquisite, and it's because he has that eye, has that skill set, and to be honest, has the friggin' patience. I think a lot of this comes down to discipline and patience and going those extra steps. When I look at a good example, I look at the M1340 I'm about to paint. I'm already mapping out in my mind. I'm like, okay, I got 2.5 months to SMC. I'm probably going to spend 2 months painting the damn thing. And TJ probably has the same idea for his Sherman, because there's such a level of complexity in these finishes where, yeah, certainly TJ, you can paint the thing green, but that's not what it looks like. That's not what you want to achieve. And to achieve what you ultimately, the end goal, what you want to get to, you're going to spend weeks painting the damn thing, and you're going to constantly go back and forth. And I think this is a long story getting away from aircraft modeling. I don't think we see that in aircraft modeling in that depth of finish.
I mean, some of it's contextual, right? I mean, you look at what Steve Husted does with his aircraft and the finishes on his aircraft, and things like lozenge patterns and things like that. But yeah, I think
he's a freak. So he's in another category. But his finishes are super complex. He stands out, like his Japanese aircraft and the chipping and the shading, like friggin' next level.
Yeah. But I think that early on, you guys talked about kind of breaking up the construction versus the finish. And I think I kind of agree with that. I think aircraft construction is, like you guys said, not necessarily harder, but very difficult. You have to mask canopies, you've got to restore panel lines, sand panel lines, eliminate seams is a lot more important. So from that standpoint, but I can see your argument as far as the paint and the finish, because in the real world, most aircraft were, again, contextually, most aircraft are stored in hangars. They're polished, they're protected, they're cleaned, and so the environment that they're in normally is a little different than an AFV or something, subject like that.
Mm-hmm. And obviously started off really controversial by kind of just coming out of the statement like aircraft are easier. I say that tongue in cheek. I'm British. I have to wind people up, but I know full well when it comes to a building perspective, absolutely, I would say I'd say like what TJ said, a lot more tedious. Chasing seams, rescribing, alignment, like wing alignment, make sure your landing gear is all aligned. That's just a pain in the ass. I don't like doing it. It's why I don't do very many aircraft. And like say masking canopies, making sure canopies are like glued on properly, making sure you don't actually get any glue on the canopy, and then make sure there's no dust under the canopy if you're then sanding. Things like that. And then there's pitot tubes which will snap off. So when do you put them on? All these annoying little things. Again, annoying is why I don't like building them. So all these people that do build aircraft a lot and then do that, it's like, fair play. You have a lot more patience than I. With an armor build, even with all the fancy like PE and all that stuff, I can kind of just get through it. Because armor by its nature, when you look at it in museums, they are a bit rough and ready. Things aren't aligned absolutely perfectly. There's like flame cuts. There's like gaps in armor panels. They aren't perfect by their nature. So in modeling, you can I'm kind of arguing for the aircraft guys now. You can kind of get away with that in builds if you do it right. Whereas with aircraft, they are a very precise piece of aeronautical engineered like thing. Yeah. So they have to be right. And that has to kind of translate into models as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it has to be correct.
Could you make the same argument for high-end car modeling versus armor modeling as far as finish?
It's funny. This is an argument I've had since 2016, and a lot of people argue. I'll argue with this until I die. I don't care. Come at me. So I know a lot of car modelers. So, and this is something I spoke with Marcus Nichols about as well. Really amazing car finishes are sanded plastic, primed, sanded back again, reprimed, sanded, painted, sanded back again, then painted again, and highly polished. Beautiful finishes like these ultra shiny, and I hate to say in scale gloss because I'm just going to move past that, but it looks right. It looks really pretty, really smooth, and just looks correct. It's very easy. And I say this as someone who has built quite a few cars, to just hose a 2K finish on it and leave it. It's like, right, that's good. A lot of people do it. It's kind of an easy way to get a very high shine finish. But I've always said it looks like it's been dipped in syrup. It's not in scale. You've put a very thick layer of gloss on. That doesn't translate when it's 24 scale. So yeah, there's a very strong discipline for like these finishes for automotive, like car and bikes, because it isn't, I say it isn't or shouldn't's wrong. I'm not telling you how to model if that's what you like to do what you want. But if you want to just paint it and slap a gloss on, go for it. But the discipline to get these really impressive finishes for automotive modeling, that is a discipline within itself. All this sanding and polishing, many primer layers, many paint layers to get that finish takes effort. Usually you end up with blistered fingers. It's just, it's a big effort. And yeah, like I say, the argument can be made. I think it's a different discipline, but it's a discipline. And ship modelers are just weird. Moving on.
I was insulted by one of the people on this call the other day when I suggested, hey, we should build ship models. I'm not going to name names on who that person was, but I'm just going to say it was John. Just straight up insulted me because I'm like, let's build ship models.
No, thank you. Next subject, your music. Let's keep going.
Is there anybody we haven't had a go at? You know, maybe the sci-fi guys.
Yeah, you know, Gundam builders. Let's have a go at them.
That damn Aztec.
So
Really,
real quick,
the bottom line is a scale modeling is not that hard. I think that's what we all just took turns saying. It's not really that hard. It's as hard as you make it be.
Yeah.
so you mentioned Gundam modelers. I'll tell you what, one of the styles I love is where they draw like the animation. Oh man, like I just want a Gundam model just for that. And they're holding it in their hand. Like they'll take pictures of it and you're like, oh, that's a cool illustration. And then they'll put it in their hand and you're like, whoa.
The manga style of finishing it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And someone did that style with a car at the IPMS at the Nationals this year.
Wow.
Cell shading.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And they put it on like a piece of paper. But in terms of being an impressive, creative way of painting, like holy cow. So I give the Gundam modelers that style is one of my favorites and is truly artistic. So that's cool.
I love how this became a discussion point.
Who haven't we gone at, I guess? But yeah, I just hate ghost seams. That's where it gets me. I just don't like ghost seams. And I've heard, I think Jeremy Moore, he might glue the whole thing together with super glue.
I was going to mention, I was like, I found like whenever I built aircraft, you don't get ghost seams if you use CA.
Yeah.
I heard people use black CA in the rubberized one that helps.
That's right. I use that for everything.
Do you?
Hole filling, seam filling, all that crap. It's amazing. I use it on everything. Armor, Mac, airplanes. I've used it on figures.
Do you have a problem with it shrinking at all with the rubber in it?
No,
or is it just
it doesn't shrink at all. That's why it works.
That's
so
great.
good.
I have the Bob Smith Industries one. I mean, AK and them sell them for like $20 a bottle, but buy the BSI one for like $8 or $9. And the black super glue actually works with debonder. The normal CA I've never had work well with debonder. But the black you can actually do what Night Shift does and blend it and remove it smoothly, as opposed to regular CA. You're never going to get it off with debonder. At least the Bob Smith debonder that I have.
I have so much trouble with the debonder with regular CA. It's just don't even try it.
I've got the VMS debonder and I use it with VMS CA glue, and I've just found it's like them two together. Perfect. Yeah.
So you do build models.
I now and again glue some bits together and then leave for a week.
And then put debonder on them and take it apart.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. Basically, long story short, I'll put my money where my mouth is and build another aircraft. Come at me, bro.
So send your hate mail to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. Any and all feedback is welcome. And if you're that strong of an opinion, we'll even have you on the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Plastic Posse podcast is sponsored by Tankcraft, makers of the highest quality cutting mats for your workbench. Tankcraft cutting mats are heavy-duty, self-healing, come in 2 awesome sizes, and have World War II tanks and aircraft blueprint-style drawings on them. Spread out your next build on an olive green M4 Sherman or a Dunkelgeld King Tiger. They've got aircraft too. Check out all the designs and range of unique modelling tools at tankcraft.com. That's TANKRAFT.com. And remember, Plastic Posse podcast listeners can use the code POSSE15 to get 15% off your first order.
All right, on to the next topic, models from the Plastic Posse that we know and love. This is from our group, and we're just going to go around the room to see what people picked out in the last 2 weeks. There's been a lot of great work posted. So, Scott, you first.
Yeah, I'm going to call out our buddy Justin. He's been working on a kit that I actually sent him. It's a 1/144 scale Millennium Falcon from Bandai from The Force Awakens. Just done a great job. You know, when he started, he was pretty nervous about the weathering. He didn't want to use acrylic washes, knowing, the Bandai kits have a proclivity to breaking down if you put too much enamel products on it. And so I just said, build it in sub-assemblies, and then bring it all together. And so that's what he did. And oh man, what a great result. Did a lot of different kinds of weathering, different layers and different mediums. And I think it just really turned out fantastic. So if you haven't seen that model, check it out on the Posse or over on Justin's own page. But I think it just turned out really, really well.
Agree. It's nice. Not bad for an aircraft modeler who lives in Texas. So, all right. Next up, Jensen, tell us what you love.
So I went with RVA Scale Model Studios, Frank Blanton working on the Mini Art Stewart hotel style. I picked it just because now he knows what I've had to do. I've seen very few people build this kit, and he's described it in the perfect word, fiddly. It's certainly that. It's very packed to such a small thing, like me. But yeah, I had to pick that. It was a really good little build, and he's cracking away, especially in a hotel. Not the most ideal environment for building a model.
That was a good build too. Sorry, JB. I was going to say I really like that one as well, Jensen.
Nice. Well, Grant, what do you see?
Well, to pick on aircraft modelers more, Gary Baker, a figure modeler, is building a 1/48 scale Arma model hobby kit Sea Hurricane, and he's doing a great job. He's got the cockpit done, closed up, had no problems, looks really good, and I think he's doing a fantastic job on it. Someone changing up the pace on there, what they usually do, and doing something different and fun, and trying to improve his skill. So thumbs up.
Yeah, and that's a great kit too. I'll go real quick. I'm going to call out Boss Slot's skid loader. He's doing a fantastic job on a little 135th guy. His bucket on that it just looks really well done. I love the patina, and then also his little the track thing that they put on him. If they need traction, he's done some awesome weathering on that too. So can't wait to see it finished and hopefully see it in person at Scale Model Challenge. All right, let's finish this off with TJ. Go figure. What did he pick?
So I'm going to have to eat crow on two accounts because I chose the Hand-Fisted Modelers 48 scale Tamiya F4B Phantom. Not only is it an airplane, but it's also a Phantom, which I famously, I think a couple weeks ago, proclaimed is the most boring modeling subject on the planet. That being said, his model is really, really good. So, tip of the hat where it's due. Still maintain my opinion. That is a boring subject. Sorry, Sam, and your obsession with Phantoms. I'll let that one slide. But yeah, well done.
Well, thanks, gents. Always love talking about the folks that post in the group. And for those interested, again, you can find all of this great work on the Plastic Posse podcast group. Please stop by, post your work, share your thoughts. We love to hear from you. With that, I'm going to kick it over to TJ, who's going to discuss some upcoming shows that I know some of us will be going to.
All right. Thanks, JB. Starting up on Saturday, September 14th, Oregon Mid-Valley Modelers present Mid-Valley Madness at the Willamette Conference Center in Albany, Oregon. Doors open at 9 a.m. and admission is $5. You can find more information at Mid-Valley Miniatures Modelers page on Facebook or contact our buddy Doug Reed. September 21st, the IPMS Reno High Rollers annual show. For more details, check out IPMS Reno High Rollers on Facebook or message Cody Kaczynski. September 21st is also the IPMS Salt Lake City, says 2224. I don't know what that means, but doors open at 9 a.m. And the show runs till 5 p.m. at the Utah Army National Guard Jake Garn Complex in West Jordan, Utah. Admission is $10 for adults and $3 per model entrance fees after the first 3 models. Details can be found at the IPMS SLC Facebook page or contact Cameron Corliss. On September 27th and 28th, the Central Arkansas Scale Modelers will be hosting RockCon, which is formerly known as Sprue. This show will serve as the 2024 Region 6 IPMS Regional Contest. Friday the 27th, there will be classes from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. by Jim Bryce, Stan Spooner, Wes Salzar, and others. Saturday the 28th, the contest doors will open at 8 a.m. and wrap up around 4. They utilize gold, silver, bronze awards, and there will be plenty of great vendors on site. Look for more information on their Facebook page, Central Arkansas Scale Modelers, or their website, casmodels.org. The 15th anniversary of Scale Model Challenge will be held in Eindhoven in the Netherlands on October 19th and 20th, 2024. More information on their website, which is scalemodelchallenge.com. JB, Jensen, and I will be there along with a bunch of other people, including our friend Jeff Feller and a bunch of other buddies of ours that will meet there. The annual MMSI show will be held on October 19th, 18th, and 19th, 2024, at the Schaumburg Marriott in Schaumburg, Illinois. For more information, you can check out their website at Military Miniature Society of Illinois.com/about the show. I think Scott and Grant are both going to be there. Is anyone else going to be there?
Yeah, we're hoping Aaron Cook's going to join us, and
Josh, you don't want him.
Buck.
Oh, God, I hope he doesn't. Tell him he's not invited. And Josh Buck.
Yeah, Josh is going to go as well. It's going to be great.
Josh is allowed to come. He can come. Aaron, no. Aaron has to stay home. They don't want any of his models bringing down the level of the show in there. For our friends down under, Scale ACT 24, which is Australia's friendliest scale model show, will be held November 9th and 10th. The Thoroughbred Park in Lyneham ACT. Modelers can enter models in the competition or in display only. And lastly, our friend Aussie Modeler would like to remind us that the High Plains ModelCon 33 will be held on November 9th. The show will be held at the Laramie County Fairgrounds in Loveland, Colorado. Doors open at 10 a.m. and this year's theme is the birds and the bees. Check out more details at High Plains Model Club.
Before we move on, we have recorded an interview with Peter at Scale ACT. He's the chair of the show, and we'll be running that in a future episode of the Posse, so we can look forward to that. All right, now it's time for our feature interview. JB Grant and I sat down with Frank Perrone and had a really great talk with him. Frank is a good guy and a really good modeler, and we talked about kind of who he was as a modeler and how modeling has helped him through some kind of difficult times and what he's working on now. So I think you're going to enjoy this. So here you go.
Welcome to a special segment on the Plastic Posse podcast. I'm super stoked for this interview. It's with Frank Perrone, longtime listener, recent time best friend. Had the opportunity to get to know him at a few shows this year, and I'm very excited for him to be on the podcast. I think this interview is going to be a lot of fun, more discussion, and just getting into the roots of scale modeling with people. And with me on the line, I have Grant as well today and Scott. And how are you fine gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing good. Enjoying the cool weather. Had some rain today in California, which was a surprise to everybody. So ready to talk to Frank and listen to you guys and have a good time.
Scott, how about yourself?
Doing well. Really excited to get to talk to Frank. And he's been a great part of our community. So let's get this thing going.
Hell yeah. And then lastly, the guest of honor, Frank, how are you today, sir?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate being here. Look forward to a good discussion.
Outstanding. So let's just jump right into it. Frank, for our listeners that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live down in Tennessee now. I moved from Long Island about 5 years ago. I lived my whole life in Long Island, involved with all those scale modeling clubs up there.
Long Island? I don't think so, based on your accent. I wouldn't know.
I haven't got my southern accent yet. I stick out like a sore thumb down here. I'm a retired New York City fireman. I've been in the construction field my whole life. So my family's a stair builder. So I'm a stair builder by trade, which leads into the hobby with me. I've always worked with my mind and my hands, and scale modeling has always kept that going, keeps the wheels moving. I push myself with that. I'm also, Grant would appreciate this, but I am a longtime gamer. I go back. I have a huge American Rev Army.
Oh, cool.
Painted. I have French and Indian War Army. And as I was talking with TJ back in South Bend, I started off in 40K, and my 40K is all metal. It's all I collected when I was a kid. So it's all the pewter figures.
Wow. That's a bit back there.
Yeah. I mean, I have a large Valhallan and Steel Legion Army.
Oh, wow.
All from 1980.
Wow.
So, and it's been repainted several times. So those, gaming was a big process for my whole life, and scale modeling kind of fit in there from time to time. And the historical part has really, with scale modeling, has really drawn me into more and more of it. I come from a military background family. One of my grandfathers is a 3-war veteran. My other grandfather is next year when I go to SMC with the gang. My grandfather's buried over in Eindhoven. He was killed in action April 9th, 1945, and he's laid to rest in an American cemetery over there. So that's going to be part of that patronage when we go to SMC. But scale modeling is a big thing in my life. It has helped me get through the whole ordeal of 9/11. It helped me cope with that and kind of filter through everything that I had dealt with and dealing with at those times. And even being into the community. The community has helped with that too. Just making new friends, keeping friends over a long period of time. It's been a wonderful part of my life, and my family supports it. I have the backing of them, and my wife always like, "Oh, how'd you do with the show this weekend?" Or she's always texting me or whatever. And she shares it on her side. So I have that support range. It's good. I mean, the scale modeling world is something I think is becoming kind of lost in the younger generations. It's all video games, which I didn't have in the 70s. We played tabletop games. I would love to see more young people involved, and I would help if I could.
Well, I think you do help in that you're, a part of our community, and maybe we'll talk about how you and I met on the phone and everything when you reached out to me. But before we move on, I really want to maybe get into some of the things that you've talked about. It's obvious the hobby is an important part of your life. You mentioned 9/11 and everything that happened there. I think the hobby can be, if we choose, it can be something that really helps, us reach out to other people, but even sometimes all on our own, I think it can provide a lot of benefits. How do you think your hobby maybe kind of helped you get through those times when after what happened in 9/11 as a firefighter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For the most part, even though to me modeling is more of a solitary thing, it allowed me to take my mind off things, or maybe help me purge a thought that may not be as important or relevant. Because you get a lot of thoughts, and it's hard to say. It's not like a post-traumatic stress, but a lot really happened to absorb. And for me, I filter it out. So I think about it, I process it, but building a scale model helps me process that, because I don't solely put the full 100% thought into it. I kind of think about it as I'm rolling through a model. So it's hard to describe, but it's just a filtering process. And that's the way I dealt with it. It was my kind of counseling in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As you're using your hands, you're kind of churning through everything and just kind of putting it where it needs to go.
Yeah. And, on that day, I lost 5 personal friends, but I lost 343 brothers on that day. And we're losing firemen on a monthly basis due to, post sicknesses and stuff. Even that at times kind of brings back the old thoughts. So when I get into a model, it helps me filter that through, sometimes when you talk to people about it, they don't understand, and it's okay to listen, but sometimes you're looking for an answer and you're not always going to get that answer. And you have to learn that. And that's with probably anything that may be affecting you, The answer is not always there. It's just how you process the information that may be on your mind.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think when you reached out to me and kind of talked a little bit about, struggling with social media, one of the things you and I talked about is the social act of this and sharing with each other and having those conversations. I think in spite of the shortcomings of social media, there is a lot of value to what you said into helping people find those answers by sharing our experiences with each other and sharing our models and
Absolutely.
Whatever the case may be. So after we kind of drug you back into the light and everything, you've been a huge part of this community, and we really appreciate it. You're a great armor builder, and you do just really, really great work. How's it been, to be kind of a part of this thing on more of a social basis? Are you enjoying that as much as you thought, or? Oh,
absolutely. Actually, I'm enjoying it more than I thought. The one thing I love about this social media thing is everybody shares their work. And the one thing I enjoy is looking at other people's work, because that's their interpretation of something. And you can't measure that against someone else because it's their interpretation. You know what? I learned things just by looking at other people's models and what they produce. And I'm enjoying every minute of it. Even the judging part of amps, you look at one model for 5 or 10 minutes and you get to really just look at that model and absorb the techniques and what that person has done. So the social media has actually amplified that for me.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like in my day-to-day that, Facebook was put in place for us modelers, like people that are all passionate about something. We share a language, right? We share this common bond. And so even though you're in Tennessee and I'm out in Utah and Grant's in California, we share this language, and it allows us, I think, to really relate and to have this I don't know this if bond is the right word, but it's certainly a common experience.
Absolutely. I think you can even go as far as a family. It's almost like a family, a separate type of family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you focused on kind of the inspiration, when you see other people's models. For me, that's what shows and the online community is all about. There's almost never a time when I see somebody else's work, like your Deutsche Panzer or your Wilder turret, which we'll talk about more of those. But you hop on Facebook and you take a look at something like that, and it just, wow, look at what Frank's done here, and it opens up for me. It opens up this whole stream of consciousness, like, wow, look, I love how how he accomplished the weathering at the root of that turret, or how he decided to put these things together in that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think we're, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm one of my own hardest critics of my stuff. But looking at other people's projects make me want to push the limits and try those things. And sometimes you make a mistake, but I go with the attitude that nothing's ever ruined. Everything's always fixable.
Yeah.
You can reset, go back and redo it. Absolutely. Sometimes it's better to put it aside and start something else and come back to that later too. Let your mind kind of process it. I'm a processor.
Yeah. I'm kind of picking that up. But I mean, that goes back to the community that we're talking about. We are almost always our own worst critic, and you do really great work. And sometimes you can put some work out there and you think, oh man, this isn't good. I see this flaw and this flaw and this flaw. But, the rest of us, that's not what we see. We see your work, and we see, I think we're a little bit more objective because we haven't been staring at it on our benches for hours and hours and hours, but we see the good as well as the bad. And so I think that feedback is really, really valuable. Like, yeah, maybe there's something over here you could do a little better, but also there's a lot of work that you've done that is really good and that you could build upon, and that, is going to inspire the rest of us to try.
Right. And I would hope everybody looks at things that way. If we take one thing away from a project that we learned, that project was successful. You can take all the flaws and mistakes you want. Listen, every model has a flaw or mistake or human. But if you can build on what you know, absolutely you get better every time. And if you're open to it, you have to have that open mind that, wow, this really, like we were talking earlier, like, this is like a happy accident. How'd I do that? But yeah, it's been tremendous for just keeping my mind rolling and the gears working, just to push myself to get better.
Well, you've certainly done a great job, and really appreciate you sharing your work. So I'm going to kick things over to Grant for a minute and give him a chance to talk. So,
Frank, I'm a big fan.
I'm a fan of yours as well.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I've seen your stuff, and I've seen you grow by the amount that you publish with us and all over, and which is fantastic. I'm really enjoying your York, your 247. It's a great kit. The way that what I was really impressed with is not only the build, but the paint. That desert camouflage with the 4-tone or 3-tone, I can't remember what it is very hard to get right. And I noticed I saw you using a dummy, a BT7, I think it was. Yes. And and you nailed it, and you're nailing it now. There you go. Yeah. See, and you're nailing that camouflage. Did you have that idea when you went in with that York, or did you, like you said before, were you just thinking about something different, and that just popped in your head?
No, well, I had seen John's back at the Atlanta show, and I told him, I said, that's going to be my next build, but I didn't want to do what he did in the sense of a camo scheme. I wanted to be different.
Right.
So I started researching the different ones, and I saw that they used them out in the deserts out there out west, and that was I'm going to say the acronym Murdoch. Yep. That's what it kind of pronounces out to be. And I'm like, this is outstanding. I got to do this scheme. So when I get into an idea, I always have paint mules. And paint mules are big. It helps me practice a pattern, a practice a paint. It helps me to see how a paint's going to react with certain mediums, whether I want to chip it, whether I want to fade it, stuff like that. And then I practice enough to apply it to a model. So if I make my mistakes, I make my mistakes on the mules.
And, I can say you did not make a mistake. It is you're nailing that. The 247 is a beautiful machine. The York
it
is
really is.
You know, if it wasn't for an F-16 radar in that thing, I think it would still be active today. You know, you're nailing the tone, and I want to go back to something you said earlier too. As a vet myself, this hobby is important in a way that you said. Even though you're alone, it allows you to process many things in what's going on and how you feel about things and how you react with people. And I feel like that's something that we as an organization or a group are trying to impress on people, is that, you know, this will help you. This is what we need. And people like you and your forwardness to bring that out are what is important to us. And I just want to thank you for that. You know, that's, you know, and we'll talk about your models more, and we're going to talk about your barbecue too, but that's later on. But but I just wanted to say that. I just want to say personally, thank you. And it's you're doing a hell of a job. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate that. And if we can help one person, that will kind of that'll take off. You pay it forward. So if one person feels like, wow, this helped me, I know what I did, let me help the next person. I think that's the most important thing. You know, I have no 100%. Problem. I have no problem ever talking about my experiences, because I want to say I didn't have a PTSD from 9/11, and the fire department took care of us tremendously. I mean, they would pull us offline for 2 weeks, send us to counseling, and you know, it might have been a generic answer, but I'm like, I'm okay right now. And my main goal was to go back and help people and find people, and they were very resistant to that. But I'm like, listen, I know where you are. If I need you, I will come. So they let me go, but there were guys that needed it. So I'd rather open up my spot to get them in, you know, and I could always circle back. But, you know, I talked with my brothers back and forth about it a little bit, and I just processed it on my own through the hobby, like I was saying before. And it really did help me. And I grew from those experiences as a person.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, Frank. As I think about, you know, using the hobby to cope, I'm curious, when did you get exposure to the podcast community? How did you find the community? I'm always interested in that.
You know, I think I was browsing through podcasts because I was looking for some new ones to listen to. And then it wasn't you guys that came up specifically. I think it was one like smaller subjects. So I started listening to that, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty neat. I wonder if there's more. And I started doing the research, and I found you guys, and I started listening to you guys. And it's funny. I would listen. I have a little at that time, I had a part-time job. I have a little part-time job now. It's different. But I worked at a local range here, and I was a range officer. So I would have my earmuffs on, and I would sit there for 2 hours in the range, but I would be listening to you guys. And that really took off. And I became a super fan at that point. And I reached out to Scott a couple times, and from there it just blossomed to where we are today.
That's awesome. Well, I know your story right there just made Ian Boner, iBones Models, your new best friend. Range officer listening to the Triple P. You just stroked. He's like, oh man.
Is it okay? I said that?
It's amazing. He is going to be reaching out to you, and you will be best friends now. So, and Pete Kokla as well. So, but no, it's really interesting. I'm always curious, because podcasting is an interesting medium in itself. And then especially with the hobby as well, with such a visual hobby, it's always interesting to understand how folks stumbled upon the podcast community for scale modeling.
Absolutely. And then you get to meet you guys at shows. Like Atlanta was the first time I bumped into all of you guys. And from there, I'm like, listening to these guys now, they're my friends. And, and now you stepped up to be in my modeling family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the most important thing. And you mentioned the Atlanta show. I think that's a great example. Dude, it was awesome to meet you in person. But not only that, but to see your work. And then I thought we had an awesome dinner. Me, you, Jackson, Grace, TJ. That was super fun, and it was just great. And those are the most valuable moments of the show. It's not buying the resin piece that you've looked for. Yeah, it certainly makes you feel good, but at the end of the day, my fondest memories will be sitting at that table with flaming desserts coming out.
That's right. So some of us had liquid desserts.
That's right. Those moments are great. And, I'll also point out, I think, Frank, it's a topic we've talked about a lot lately, is around confidence in your work. And I will say your Wilder turret on the KV, that's peak. Like, that's really great. And I know you're very humble when you showed it, but talk a little bit about that build, because, you know, when I look at your work has always been quality, but I feel like that one, we always talk about a level up. Man, I think that was your level up build from my perspective. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think that's the one that raised the bar for me, and I'm trying to push that level now to get above that bar. The one thing when I purchased that turret, I purchased the turret in the book, I did not want to do it on a JS2 chassis because everybody was doing that in JS2. Here, I have to be different. So I was looking around, coming up with different ideas, and I have a whole bunch of these KV1s from Trumpeter. I'm like, why not put it on that? So I had to do a lot of fitting and finagling to get that turret to work on there. But once I started doing it, it really seemed to fit that hull. And it made sense because the KV2 is a big turret, you know, and I started to run with it. I had to reshape the bottom of that turret with epoxy putty because it just didn't fit the turret, right? So I kind of had to bring it down a little bit if you look at it. But once I did that, and then I started soldering up all the handrails for it, once I completed that task, which to me was a monumental task, but it wasn't. I made a mark on a piece of paper, taped down the wire, and touched the solder to everything. It was really a simple task. That really inspired me to finish this kit the way I did. And as you can see, I did 2 sprays on the turret. I sprayed the first one with the invasion stripe, and it just wasn't sitting with me. I kept staring at it. I posted pictures of it, and I'm like, you know what? This has to come off. I got to redo this because now I got another idea for it. So I soaked it, and I cleaned it off completely, reprimed it, let it sit for a couple of days as I practiced on a mule. And then I went back and I repainted the whole thing. And it's kind of funny when I paint stuff now, it's in stages. Like, I'll paint this, let it dry. Let me think about the next process. Let me practice that, and I'll do the next stage. And I was experimenting with paints then too. And that model is completely painted in Mission Models paints, which most people don't like today. But it's a very interesting medium of paint. But as that KV started playing out, and then I started getting into weathering, people were telling me, oh, the track should be really muddy, loaded up with mud. And I'm like, well, a lot of the pictures I see they're not loaded up with mud. They have a little bit of dirt piled up here and there. So I tried to portray that. And I think in my own sense, I feel good about what I did. And I think I kind of nailed being subtle enough, but not over applying the weathering. Subtle is my new word for modeling. I want it to pop, but I want it to pop subtly.
I think you're really accurate, except for the kinda. We'll just strike the kinda. You definitely nailed that. I want to kind of dig in here a little bit. I mean, obviously, Adam has been an inspiration for your work, but who are some other modelers that you look to and you know, their work just makes you go, wow?
As far as on that stage, like a stage of Adam Wilder, Night Ship Martin is another person I've followed, and I do love his work, and I love his techniques. And believe it or not, and I may be skewered for this, but even Mr. Rinaldi, there's just something about the OPR that I'm fascinated with, and I've learned a lot from that.
No doubt.
You know, yeah, those are probably the 3 biggest I follow. But Adam was one I followed for the longest amount of time, and when he private messaged me about that kit after it was done.
Cool.
And you want to know, that sent me to the moon. I was like, holy moly. And then we've kind of become, you know, friendlier over that, which he's somebody I looked up to that I don't want to copy him because I don't want to copy anybody, but I took a little of his, little of that, and I kind of made my own personality when I build. But no, he inspired me with that model to push myself even more.
Well, and I think that speaks to who he is too. I mean, Adam's a great guy, and the fact that he would reach out to you is just tremendous and shows who he is. I've always loved his storytelling. You know, he takes every little element of the model and really, really just kind of lets that weld bead or that bolt or whatever tell that story. And like you said, I could see that in that build specifically, but in your work generally, that you've kind of taken that inspiration and, like you said, put Frank's spin on that.
Yeah, I think we should all put our own spin on it. Don't copy someone. And there's nothing wrong with taking a technique that somebody does and using it. I think that's what we all do as modelers anyway, but kind of take that technique and add your own little twist or spin on it. And when somebody looks at a model without knowing the name on it, they go, that's Scott Gentry's model, or that's John Bonanno's, or that's Grant Mayberry's model, just by that little spin, you know? Other than that, we'd all have models that look the same on the table if we copied everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about modeling is that, you know, everything's inspired, like whether it's a historical photograph or whether it's another model. I mean, I think that's really, for me, one of the big challenges. How can we emulate something that inspires us without sort of turning it into a Xerox copy? And that's why, for me personally, I think that, you know, the build is important and the technicality is important, but I think it's our finish and presentation and our creative vision that I think separates us individually. Like you said, that, oh yeah, that's Frank's work. You know, that's, you know, it's, I don't know, style is used a lot, but I think it's how we are taking in all these different pieces of inspiration and then creating something on our bench that, you know, maybe pays homage to or is flavored by those bits of inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. And like, here's another person I look up to, and I just recently met him back in South Bend, and I judged his models with Stan Spooner. I judged that SU 12254. What a phenomenal kit. And I enjoyed, even on a small scale, the amount of detail and the amount of weathering and how he brought that whole thing out to pop is just amazing. And then you read the Boreside article on that kit. It was a complete nightmare to build. I don't know if you guys have seen that article.
Yeah, definitely. That 48 scale kit does not sound like a walk in the park. Great vehicle, though. I'm a huge fan of that vehicle. I know it was kind of maybe a little past its time, but it's just aesthetically, from a modeling perspective, so interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Soviet armor, especially World War II Soviet armor.
Right.
There's so much you can do. I mean, it's an open palette in the sense that, especially World War II Russian armor, that it was just slapped together, you know, so you can make it as ugly, as rough as you want. You can, you know, some of them rolled out weren't really even painted, you know, and so like this year I have slated, I'm going to do the mini art SLA APC T54. That's been sitting on my shelf for a while. So
that's the blue one, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to do that for Amps Nats. So,
nice. That's going to be awesome.
That's a beautiful build right there.
Yeah, it's picking out the paint colors because they were, as I do the research, they were Israeli police vehicles.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a whole lot written about them.
No.
You know, it's so I'm going to try to be as close to as I can with the colors and stuff, but very intriguing vehicle. And it'll be my first 135th scale T55 you know, variant. So Michael, I'm looking forward to that.
Michael Mass is on Facebook. You should reach out to him and ask him. I mean, when it comes to Israeli armor, he is the guy. So
okay.
He's a curator at Latrune, and he collaborates with AK a lot, and I know he's helped a lot of modelers. So, yeah, Michael Mass, he's the man.
I will definitely reach out to him because I was talking to Cookie Sewell back Amps Nats.
Amp's grandfather.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't seen him since the 90s. That was the last time I went to a Nationals. It was back in 1997.
Oh, wow. I was gonna ask if you went to Havre de Grace in the early 2000s because that's when I first started going there. I never went to them in the 90s.
Yeah, no, I was kind of on cruise control in life at that point. 9/11 had happened. I was a new fireman. When 9/11 happened, I was in my second year in the fire department. I had a young family. We just bought a house. So modeling wasn't put to the side, but it didn't take precedence on a lot of things. So going to shows, except for the local ones on Long Island and New Jersey, Mosquito Con and stuff like that. Local stuff I would go to, but I never entered anything. I would just go to the shows to see people I knew and shop a little. You know, it's, but everybody goes through those ups and downs through life. You know, as far as like, I can't make shows this year. I can't build a model this year. It's just life gets in the way, and that's okay.
Exactly. You know,
like you guys will be at SMC. I'm going to go up to ArmorCon this year up in Connecticut.
Nice.
So, because I'll be up there for a wedding the week before. So my family will fly home and I'll stay up there for the week or so and hang out with my extended family. and then do that. So
that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, get a little fishing in, go see everybody, have some meatballs, have a slice of pizza.
I'm in. You just described a great weekend to me. Yeah, ArmorCon is a great little show. I've often wanted to go to it, but it just hasn't worked out. But that is the same club, if I'm not mistaken. They hosted AMPS, 4 or 5 years ago? They had the AMPS Nationals up there. That was a lot of fun. That was a nice venue. Shame that little military museum's closed up there, but really great group of guys in that area.
Yeah, that actually, was that an IPMS club at one time, years and years ago?
I don't know, to be honest.
I'm not sure, because there was a show I used to go in Connecticut all the time in the early to late 90s that was up in Connecticut. It was an IPMS. And I don't know if that show's still around. So I thought maybe those guys morphed into the YAMPS chapter, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure one way or the other, which thinks I keep thinking about starting a chapter here in Middle Tennessee. I'm just not sure how to go about it 100%. And I want it to be successful if I do it. I don't want to have just 3 members. So,
well, you've got some guys here. TJ started an AMPS chapter. I helped start an AMPS chapter out in Salt Lake. I think Grant has had a hand in some chapters in California as well. So yeah, if you need a hand, and then obviously those guys over there, Neil Stokes and the AMPS crew, they're great guys. Yeah. I mean, good to work with. They'll support you. So yeah, if you want to do it, just give us a shout offline and we'll give you a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, guys. That'll be something that probably in the near future I'm going to start getting that ball rolling. I think it's lacking here in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I think one person you might pull some ideas from is Mark Bradley. He lives north of me, and I've yet to make it to a physical meeting, but Mark and Jamie established an AMPS chapter a little bit north of Denver, and they have a hybrid model where, there's online meetings, but then also I think it's every month or every other month there's actually a physical meeting. And I got to talk to him because I think it might even rotate around between members' houses to create flexibility because, out here in Colorado and out west, like Scott knows, instead of in the East, you drive a half an hour, you see 20 friends. Out here, you have to drive 7 hours, I feel, to see 20 friends. So just different models like that, I think are important to try out to be successful.
I think that's the way it's going to have to start out, to maybe like a Zoom meeting and then go from there. And if the guys are close enough or up for it, we'd, like you said, rotate houses. I'm not against that. But it's also promoting the club. And, like I'm not looking to be the leader of the club. I think I just want to start it. That's what it's about. I love my IPMS club here in Middle Tennessee. But, I want us to go further. I'd like us to host a regional, and I've been putting that in the president's ear. So we've been told we're the largest club in the southern region now with the most members. So I think we should. So I'm going to push that, try to have a regional. I just found out that, is it Bruce McRae?
Yeah.
He's going to stop at our show this November.
Oh, cool.
Which I thought was pretty neat. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
That's great.
Phenomenal modeler and diorama builder.
Yeah. Going back to the club, you mentioned I don't want to be the leader. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of us. Like we don't need a formal like president, vice president, all this overarching structure for a social club. It's like if we want to formalize, it's like, okay, who's going to manage the checkbook? That's probably the most important thing.
I agree.
And is that person trustworthy? Otherwise, it's like, hey, let's just hang out. Let's just and I love what you said there, Frank. In terms of goals for a club, mine has always been. I've talked to Scott about this a lot, and Scott exemplifies this because he actually did it. Is from my perspective, I would love to have a club, but more important, it's like I want the club to put on the show to really bring that community together. And I think Scott has done it very well. Your ambitions to bring a regional in, those events, I think really catalyze a lot of energy and really help the hobby in that area. And then also I think it helps, like you mentioned, if you put on a show, it's going to be your personal flavor as well and kind of your personal take on the hobby. At least that's what Scott showed me. And I suspect, if Frank's show was out there, it'd probably be a lot of social based kind of themes and just bringing that aspect and kind of pushing away the 1, 2, 3 contest mentality.
No, I want the open judging in it.
Yeah.
I think people take away a lot more from that system than 1, 2, and 3 now. And you know what? That discussion has been beat to death, but it's it's one of those things that'll go on forever, you know. But like even the show that Scott just held, I looked at air flights to get there. I really wanted to go, but there's just no easy way to get there from here right now. You know, it would have been like 8 or 9 hours of flight time, you know, bouncing around the country to get there. So it just didn't work out. But I will be there, Scott. Trust me.
Oh man, that'll be great. It'll be great.
Next year, whether I have to drive or fly, I'll make a longer period of it. I'll make a week to make it worth it to be out there.
Yeah. Grant can tell you, I kind of helped him with his sightseeing, but we got some beautiful mountains and lakes and waterfalls, and Utah's kind of a wonderful place for that. So we can get you some multitasking vacationing while you're out here.
Absolutely. I just completed the Bryce Canyon walk on the treadmill. So
nice.
I'd love to see that in real life.
It's stunning. Yeah.
I was going to say, Frank, if you make it a week trip, Denver is kind of on the way. So stop in Denver.
Let's go.
I'll take care of you for a little bit, and then we'll make the journey over to Salt Lake together, and we'll make a trip out of it. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And then Commies Fest. I want to get there this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Commies, it's a small show. They have a great team. Yeah, Denver's such a great area. Salt Lake's a great area. You know, there's museums, and it really becomes kind of an event, more than just the show. The show's great. You're just kind of using that to leverage all the other things we want to do. Going back to what you said about, 1, 2, 3, it's not like one system is right or wrong, but, like John said, having it be a reflection of your team and your crew and yourself, I think is really important. When we did our show, a lot of it is going around and, Jim Bates, his show, that the Northwest Scale Modeling Show up in Seattle, they don't even do a contest. It's display only. And that's a different culture. And so you kind of go around to all these different shows and get a little bit of what's best from each one, and then try to, incorporate that into your own event. I think you'd put on a great show.
No, hopefully we can do it one year in the future. I think if I start that this year, that might be 5 years out. But to go more with your point with the, open judging, everybody benefits from that. The way I look at it, not just the person's model or the person that built the model, but the judges, and how much you can grow as a modeler, not just a judge, but as a modeler, by looking at someone's model with an open mind and enjoying what they did, and not looking for so much the flaws, but look for the good things that are on that model, the positive stuff about it, and relaying that to the person who built that model, in a constructive way. I think if you look at it that way, you actually grow as a modeler yourself, and enjoy it more.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. When I went to my first MMSI show, that really was, I think, just it kind of blew my mind, because judging then goes from, sometimes it I don't want to say it's a chore, but sometimes it feels, going back to what John said, transactional, right? So we got to get this done, we got to get all these things done, and then all of a sudden judging is like something that you really look forward to year round. Because you're excited to collaborate and have discussions. And I think, Shep Payne, when he, with the group of people that he did, came up with the concept, I think he was mindful of that. The juried exposition approach, just sort of, I think, obviously it's different than 1, 2, 3, which has its own positives and everything, but I think it just really allows you to look at things in a different way. And again, in our show, it was like, okay, we have a contest, and that's important to give people feedback, but let's get back to the social part now. Let's go take a hangar tour and check out some helicopters and, go talk with each other.
Yeah. I mean, put your name on it. Shouldn't hide people's names for it. Yeah. I'll put my name on anything. And listen, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, that doesn't look right, or how'd you do that? I'm happy with that. I'm okay with somebody not maybe correcting me or finding something I didn't see, or that I'm completely, because I learned. I take that experience and I'm like, holy crow, how did I let that pass? Or why didn't I do that way? And that's a constructive thing. Like, even when you get back to the open judging, when you're sitting down with 3 other people, they got their all different perspectives. And It's good because they see something that maybe you didn't see or somebody else didn't see. But the other thing about that is, I was teaching because I was a table captain. I was teaching my guys, like, if we all find a flaw, we all can't take the point off for that flaw. One of us takes the point off for it because you can't remove 3 points for the same thing. And they're like, oh, we didn't think of that. So they grew as modelers. They opened up their mind to like, and it was guys are like, I like that. And they're going to pass that on. So we learned and they're going to share that. And that made us all grow as judges and modelers and everything. So, and they started to really see my perspective and enjoy the model that's placed in front of you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Really, don't look at it like, oh, this is not the way I would do something, or this. Don't do that. That's a different person. You're a different person. Let's just enjoy what's in front of us.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier. That's what makes that piece, the work of the modeler. That's what makes Frank's tank different than Grant's or Scott's or JB's. I got to give another shout out to Jim and the Northwest Scale Modeler Show, having people bring, rather than a couple pieces to compete, bring all their work and display it all together. And I'll let Grant and John maybe talk about this too, but you get a feel of the evolution of the modeler's work too, which is, contextually quite different. But you can see, we met Cobra Pla, a friend of ours who does a bunch of Gundam and science fiction modeling. And he, we went over there and we're talking to him and he was like, okay, this is my first model. This is my latest model. And then you got to kind of go through all those models together and see an evolution of style and an evolution of technique. And that's something I hadn't considered before, but that display only show really facilitated that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to go to a display only show. I wouldn't even mind putting my stuff in a display only show. It's just, like we said before, meeting new people, hanging out with old friends. That's, and they can enjoy your work. And maybe, like I said, new people come in and they look at this format and they see these people's collections out on the table, which I thought the figure show in AMPS, Atlanta was incredible because you had this one guy who was display only. I think it was Jim Rice. Just to look at all his pieces there on the table, I was floored. And then some of the other people with the flats, I've never seen flats before. To see a flat that it almost pops 3-dimensional is like, wow, how did they do this? I think that does bring a different element to the whole show process too, the display only. I've often thought that how many times do you bring a model to a show or to different shows? At one point, do you just bring that model for a display only model? Is it 3 shows, 5 shows? So I think, well, the KV is going to be retired at Mr. Bonanni's house the next time I see him.
Oh, man. Well, now I'm obligated. I got to find my best work to trade you.
No. But as we talked in Atlanta, but like that's going to go to ArmorCon and I'm going to retire it from that show. And I may even just put it on display only because it was such a hit. It's been at 3 shows already. And I think that's enough for me, my personal feeling, not anybody else's. And it kind of pushes me to build new models and get ready for more shows.
Yeah, I tend to think, if we talk about, what's the life of a scale model in terms of, shows, I typically think a year, to be honest, or I call it the circuit. It does the circuit once, it lives a good life and then it gets retired. So I don't think you should have any qualms taking it to ArmorCon and maybe it's the last coup de grace and call it after that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly. I may put it on display at my show. I don't like to enter models in my own personal show, like the Middle Tennessee show, but that's just my personal feeling. That's a whole nother discussion. Let people, let builders do what they want. But I kind of think that the meeting's not there for the club, but it's there for the people that come in. But that's my personal feeling. That I don't push that on anybody.
Display only, though. I think putting models on the table, even if you don't want them judged for awards, I think it's still good to put your work out there. You never know who you're going to inspire or influence, by doing it that way.
I think a club, and again, this is my personal feeling, I think a club should have its own table for display only. This is the model. This is the members of the club's models. They're not in the contest. They're for display. And like I said, there's a whole host of reasons I feel that way.
Yeah.
And I think it promotes the club, even further, because you know what? The club wants people to come in. They want them to represent, they want the people to bring their own stuff in and represent themselves and have a chance to show their work.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea, especially at local shows. How many local shows have you gone to where the awards ceremony has a certain flavor to it, I guess you could say. And it just perception, even though a good example, there's a couple clubs I've been a part of where the members are just fantastic modelers. And it's unfortunate. It's fortunate, unfortunate, where a lot of times they clean up at the show. And even though it's not Homerism in some cases. Sometimes it is. I've been to shows for that. But when it's not, it still just adds this poor perception like, oh, this show just rewards their own club members. Where I think, like you said, Frank, hey, let's just cut that out. It's display only. And it kind of gets to the heart of what is the purpose of a show or an event? Is the purpose to give out little medallions to people, or is it to showcase people's work, grow the hobby, expose people to the hobby, and then also reward people in a sense of recognizing their work, not from an award standpoint, but Frank, I'd like your take on this. Like for me, it matters so much more when someone comes up and goes, man, that's an inspiring model. And thank you for bringing it, because it's got the juices flowing.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. Take your models to another club show. That's, if that's the way you feel. To me, that stuff is all secondary and maybe third down the line. It's going to the show and hanging out with everybody. That's number one to me. And I think for most of us, and sitting in these, in this meeting and beyond, I look at it this way: put your models on display, let the people come in, and you may spur off someone that, I want to join that club, or you'll gain members, or you'll gain more people just into the hobby at that point. Somebody that's maybe not be that serious of a builder, but good, but now you just spurred off his desire to get better too.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll pull this conversation back because I really want to focus on some work of yours, Frank. You had mentioned, your interest building a T55 next. You specifically talked about colors, and that blue, which kind of rings a little bell for me, and I love it, is your T34, your Butte Panzer. I am stoked to hear that you're going to SMC, and you might be curious where you rank up. And I was actually messaging TJ just a few minutes ago. And from our perspective, your T34 needs to go in the masters category. That's the level you're at. You might not think so, but that build, I know your big green monster was a level up. I think you took it to the next level with your T34, the Butte Panzer, and maybe just talk a little bit about that, because the texture on it, the color, the stowage, like you freaking nailed every aspect of it.
That's an actual tank. That specific one I built. I have some photos. There's very few photos of it. And some of the stowage isn't accurate to it, but you can't see that side of the tank, so it's all interpretation. But what spurred me off to build that tank is I had seen that picture and I saved it. And I came across it again. And I'm like, I have this dragon kit. And like I have a million dragon kits in my stash. But I had that specific kit. So there was a lot of planning. I pulled out all my T34 books too. I was looking through that, and I started pulling out all the extra stuff that I have, all the stowage, all the track links, everything. So I started mocking this up, and I'm like, we're going with this. As I started progressing with the build, it wasn't that difficult of a build, but it's an old dragon kit, has a lot of its own flaws, especially the running gear. And then I got into the paint part of it. I think we discussed it a little bit online with the grays, and I started practicing one of the mules with grays and lightening the blue up a little bit. But when you paint it gray, like it should be painted gray, it looks like a gray block. There's no life to it. There's no definition. So then I started playing with different blues and grays and how to lighten them up and mix them. And that's why I came out with that, the way it was all sprayed out. So then I took the next thing. It's like, I don't want to muddy this tank up because it wasn't muddied in the real picture. So I started dusting it, doing my OPR, and it started to pop and build. And I had all intentions of using the kit tracks, but they weren't working out right. So I went with the metal tracks, and once I soaked them, and I think Scott chimed in a couple times on how I was going to do the silver and, how I was going to wear off the shiny parts. And that kit just kind of fell together at the end. And I wanted it to look used, and I wanted it to look like even the spare tracks on the side, they weren't tied on in the picture, but I tied them on because I knew I was going to get that proverbial old magnetic stowage again. So I added the rope to it just to put that question to bed. But that thing came to life once I started adding the stowage, all painted up. And that one, I think, raised the bar for me too. And I owned that kit has only been in one show. I took it to the Knoxville show, and the people surrounding that model was incredible. Taking pictures of it. It actually wound up on the Model Mojo's page. Somebody took a picture of it and posted it. And like this, they said something about this kit really being stunning. It really popped on the table along all the other models. So
and a well-deserved gold from the show.
Yes. Matter of fact, the president of that show came up to me and goes, I got to talk to you about that. He goes, did you paint all these markings? I said, yes, all the markings are painted. I made the stencils. And he goes, phenomenal work. He goes, this is the most, I think how he worded it. He said something about, he goes, I've never seen people spray so many markings on a tank. Usually they'll do one or two or whatever. I said, well, I planned on using the decals, but the decals just would not take to the cast texture on a turret. So I had to go with plan B and paint all the, stencil all the markings on it. So he goes, phenomenal work. He says, please bring your stuff back to our show. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know how to take that, but very overwhelmed and humbled again. I do appreciate people's input, and it is humbling for me. Because I don't want to come across that way any other way. Then I appreciate that you appreciate my work.
Dude, it's awesome. I love the T-34 so much. One of the things I'd love to ask a tactical question, Frank, and I want to learn from you. You mentioned OPR. I love your dust. Like, is a lot of that accomplished through oil paints or are you using pigments? Okay.
No, all oil paints.
Love it.
And again, I learned that by happy accidents. You got to try things and make some mistakes. But basically what I do is, those big wide makeup brushes, see and I have daughters, so I have extra ones all over the house that I steal. If you take those, you got to take your oils, put them on the cardboard, let them dry. Sometimes I let them dry overnight. I don't wait an hour or two. I really want that linseed oil out. I want that oil dry as can be. And if you take that brush and you wet it in the bristles in that dry paint, and then you brush it off almost completely. You don't brush it on in the brushing stroke. You stipple it on up and down, not side to side. And what you do is you start from one point and work your way out to the center work your way out from the center because you want to be able to stop at a place where dust won't go or it'll proceed to not collect in those areas. It's a real simple task. And I think you should definitely add it to your arsenal. It's just let the paints dry, whatever colors you're using. And most of the oils I use are the 502s. I do buy some from the art store, but most of them I really like the 502 paints because I think they have the least amount of oil in them. I think they're designed for modelers in that sense. Yeah. Simple process, simple technique.
Yes, that's great. Your T-34s. I almost stepped on John. I just stepped on you. I'm sorry. And
no, you're good.
I was going to ask you the exact same question. We talked about the T-34. We talked about your Russian vehicles. We talked about what you're thinking about doing in the future beside the T-54, the Lebanese. What else what are you looking at down the road? You talked about the Lebanese T-54 for amps next year, but what's tomorrow?
I tell you, once I finish the Sergeant York, I'm going to be jumping into the Tamiya Hellcat.
Oh,
and I am actually in the process of purchasing a bunch of stuff from Tiger Model Designs to update that kit.
Mm-hmm.
And once I get everything collected, photo etch and all those extra parts, I'm going to jump on that and finish up the York at the same time. That's been a build I've wanted to do ever since that kit came out. I just never did it. So, and then after that, we'll probably jump into that the SLA T-54. I keep pushing aside the VOMAG, the DOSWorks VOMAG. And I open that box and I want to do it, but that's a kit that you really got to take your time. It's a lot of parts to it. I want to make sure it's built up in stages. Oh, another one I'm presently working on is the Mini Art tow truck, the GS 506. But
right.
Oh yeah, so great. Yeah,
it's a cool kit.
Yeah, that's a fun kit. That's a nice little kit.
So I had some damaged parts in it when I opened it up, and I contacted Mini Art, and those parts are on their way. A very quick response with that company, and I tell you, I'm a Mini Art fan now. The only thing I don't care about Mini Art is the way they pack their parts. They shove them all in one bag, so things get damaged.
Especially their full interior kits have like 117 sprues in one
Oh
bag.
my goodness. And I'm a very methodical builder when I build. I lay out the instruction sheets, and I look at step one, and I go through step two. Sometimes I'll bounce around the steps, but I'll clip off the parts for that complete step, clean them up, and I put them in a storage bin. And I'll do that a couple steps ahead. And then when I come back to start assembling, I take those parts and I actually place each part on its own picture on the directions, the instruction sheet. And I build that assembly at that point, put it aside, and I do the process that way and going through. But that comes from my stair building. Everything's mathematical. Everything's a process. Building circle stairs and all those things throughout my whole life.
That's an interesting way. That's interesting. I've never tried it that way before, because I'm like the old school guy where I need A7, I'll clip it off, clean it, put it down. Need a whatever, and then clip it, clean it up. I've seen a lot of people do it your way too. And it seems like to me, it's more of, it's more of a production, and not a bad way, of course. But it seems like when you do it that way, you get a better image of what you're doing is what I'm trying to say, instead of a 1, 2, 3 kind of like I do. So that's interesting. Right. Very interesting.
Yeah. I think it works with my keeping the wheels spinning in my head.
Right.
Okay. And then, where it started from with me is no matter what kit I built, I always clipped all the wheels and tracks off, cleaned them up, put them in a bin, set them aside till another stage, even though they're usually early on. Yep. And usually that's like one of the last steps I do when I do wheels and tracks. It's, I don't want to be bothered with that right now. It helps me build that way, and I could walk away and leave everything on my desk and come back and all those parts are still sitting there. So I know where I left off,
Yeah. That's impressive. I used to do the same thing with Dragon kits with the tracks. So that was the first thing I did, is I took all the tracks off and cleaned them all and got them already, put them away, and just like that.
Get that cast out of the way.
Oh yeah, that was the killer. That was the killer.
And it's funny because I won't build that kit with rubber band tracks. So building the Dragon kit tracks were good back in the day. It actually taught another skill. And then it's funny, I just found 2 old Frual Metal track sets I have where they didn't have pins. They had little clips that you had to bend, and they were the worst because you'd bend them and they'd still fall apart. So I'm like, well, these will just be spare track links on some kit somewhere down the road.
Frank, I want to pull on one of the projects you mentioned because it's been in my backlog like many things. But you mentioned the Hellcat. That Tamiya kit is gorgeous. I recommend this set from Echelon for I'll send you a picture. But this
send me a picture.
Yeah, the Echelon M18 Hellcat set. I have part 2, and this was a gracious gift from Steve Baker because he might build one, but he's like, you'll probably get to it before I do. I'm like, okay, great. Because this sheet's been sold out a lot, but it covers a lot of the different vehicles. But I find that Hellcat, and specifically Tamiya's kit, oh man, it's just going to sing, I think, once you get your hands on it. And I'll also say, we'll send you a little care package. Jackson has done a lot of, computer modeling, some CAD work on a lot of the Jackson has done a lot of CAD work on the M18 exterior. So headlight guards and a few other things. So, and even some interior components. Bottom line is we'll get you a care package, to complete the build too. Yeah. It's such a cool vehicle.
It's can I drop another name real quick?
Fire away.
One thing I do want to build, Grant, to get back to your question, is I have that 1/16 scale Achilles.
Oh, and, yeah.
Right
John Spuds. Yeah, it's back there. See, it's Spud Murphy. He has got me singing to do that kit. But then I go, man, I could never build it to his standard. But I'm going to build it. You know why? Because I want to put mine next to his one day, Jen. I want to shake his hand.
Yep.
and get to meet him. So that's a goal.
He takes your approach. I think everything is kind of little on those big kits, sub-assemblies, and that's how he not only builds, but it's also how he paints and weathering. When I started kind of, following his work really closely, he did that 1/16 scale Stewart, and he took one toolbox on the back of the turret of that tank, and just, oh my gosh, really amazing. But yeah, I think he and you have a lot in common as far as your approach to, the modeling that's going on.
Yeah. And I'd love to have a pint with him, and just laugh. Like I look forward to sitting down and have dinner with all of you guys together one day.
Absolutely.
I'll send my, I'll tell him you say hi. I'm going to see him in 6 days at Bovington, hopefully. So
okay.
I'll tell him you say hi. Maybe he'll even bring the Achilles with him. But no, I agree. Spud is salt of the earth kind of people, Frank. And if you go to SMC, he's a constant fixture there, along with all the Four Corners folks, which I know you'll love to hang out with. Spud, Pete Usher, Darren, all of them. Dan Sankey, Ian, just a great group of folks. And
looking for 2025.
Hell yeah. I mean, gosh, SMC is one of those shows. I've gone once. And now I have to go every year. I'm trying to drag Scott and Grant with me, but you got to promise me you'll enter and master there. So
I will. I'll bring the T-34.
Okay, good.
Whatever else I bring.
Good.
So,
yeah, by 2025, you'll even be better and have new projects. So it'll be a tough choice.
Well, we'll get Scott and Grant to go in 2025. We're all going.
Hell yeah. There's also World Expo in 2025 outside of Paris in the summer. So we're going to do that too. I don't know if you can swing it, but you're retired. You can do that. So
I got nothing but time. I actually
right.
got less time. I actually have less time now retired than I was when I was working 2 jobs.
Right? It's an interesting point with this hobby. People often, I talk to coworkers and friends, and sometimes, I get the bored vibe from them. And I'm, like you said, there is not enough time for this hobby. There's always something to do. I could lose
Absolutely.
12 hours easily at the bench.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've, like you guys, I've always been a worker. I got a little part-time job here at the local Chevy. I work for Fleet Services. We deliver trucks and cars. I drive all over the state of Tennessee, and it just gives me something to do 2 days a week. I don't have to talk to the dogs or the cat or, but I squeeze plenty of modeling time in. Usually in the mornings. I'm an early riser. I can't knock that commute out of the city for all those years. I'm usually up around 5 a.m. So most of my building is between then and 7 in the morning. And sometimes during the middle of the day, but most of the time I do other things. There's other projects I have to do around the house and things that have to get done. So you need to squeeze those in to keep the Admiral happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got to come down to it. We've got to ask you. We ask all of our guests. We've talked a little bit about what your plans are for your upcoming projects, but what is your magnum opus? It could be the big project that you're planning someday, or it could just be like a dream project. But, what is Frank's magnum opus?
My magnum opus is the Bandai Yamato and Star Blazers. I'm a big fan. I have several of the VHS tapes. I just watched those. I used to come home from school and watch them on TV. I had one when I was a younger kid, but who knows where that wound up. That's in the vapors of past history. But I would love to purchase another one and do a bigger scale.
So I know a guy who can help you. I've got a larger scale kit of that and lighting and we can get into all that. And then, depending, I think it's a 1/500th scale. And then they also make some STLs. I don't know if you ever watch Tested. They went to Wonderfest and the guy had 3D printed, I don't know, it was 4 or 5 foot long one from an STL. So you can do that. But when it's time to make that a reality, give Scott a buzz and we'll talk Yamato. I'm a Yamato nerd. So.
Oh, so am I. I mean, it's just, was such a great cartoon, and I was in awe when that came out, and I don't think the first Bandai kit I seen, it was maybe the 90s of it. I'm not saying it wasn't produced before then, and I bought one, but I didn't do a good job on it, and it was left at my parents' house, and everybody has that story. My baseball cards, my train set, whatever.
Well, and in your defense, those original Bandai kits from I think they were tooled in the 70s. They weren't good. They weren't the Bandai they are today. The stuff they're making now is just unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's my Opus build, my Opus Magnus build.
Very cool. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah. Talk about left field. Jeez.
That came out of nowhere.
I'm a Star Trek fan too. You know that Star Trek Star Wars fight? I love Star Wars, but I am a Star Trek nerd. Again, that generation, you know. And I even love those you ever see the newer Star Trek movies with the younger crews? Totally phenomenal. But not that I don't love Star Wars, because I do. That's just my generation, Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of you like the capital ship kind of a vibe, you know, the Yamato and the Enterprise and things like that are kind of more the big capital ships. So that's cool.
Yes. Even the Reliant, USS Reliant is another ship that I love. Actually, I can't think of the name of the ship, but it was in one of the newer Star Treks, a huge one that they built, a newer model that was I can't think of the name of it, but I don't think that'll ever come out. But that would be a ship I would love to build as well.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I like that stuff as well. Well, I don't know, John, Grant, anything else that we need to pick Frank's brain on here?
Yeah, I'm going to tell him, and then I'll kick it to Grant. Frank, we need to get you in a magazine. Your work is awesome. I think it definitely deserves publishing. I think Rob Riv can help you out on the Military Modelcraft International front, and David Grummett's a great guy, and I know he'd love to publish your work. And then even to me, a Model Mag as well with Marcus Nichols. I mean, your stuff is fire, and we got to share it more, because I think you can teach a lot of people how to build a kick-ass model.
Well, I appreciate that. I would love to get published, and that'll be a goal. We'll have to work on that.
It's easy peasy, man. You're already there. So it's great.
Well, we'll talk about that. I'll lay out the game plan and get the things I need to make that happen.
Awesome. Well, Grant, anything else? And I'll wrap it up with one final question.
I just want to say thanks to Frank real quick. I don't really have another question, but I just want to say thanks. It's been great. Been a blast. It's been very eye-opening. I'm still a little floored with the Yamamoto. I could have I would have said something totally different. I'm sorry. But that's great. I'm really glad. And I know I can't wait to meet you in person myself. If you can't get to SMC this year, if you can make it to Chicago for MMSI, me and Scott will be there definitely. So you can see some great figures. You'll meet some great people. Open judging format. You'd love it. So
okay, yeah, that's a November show, right?
October.
Yeah,
October.
That's late October. Yep. 18th
that's
and
only
19th.
A couple hours. That's probably about a 7-hour ride from here. It's not bad.
Right.
That's
that's nothing. Nothing.
No, that's 2 hours past South Bend. It's easy.
Yeah.
Listen, I drive up to Long Island. That's 15 hours from here. So that's no big deal. No, I'll plan on it. I'll look up the dates and how getting rooms up there pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in Schaumburg. You may not be able to get a room it's in kind of a smaller Marriott, but there's hotels everywhere within, half a mile. I mean, it's easy peasy. So anyway, let us know if you're coming, because we'll definitely be there. We'll meet up.
Yeah,
we'll do. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure. I don't know what else to say. I'm very humbled that I was here hanging out with you guys. It was a fun time, fun conversation all around.
Hell yeah, it's been great. And Frank, we'll just end on one last question. It's a new one we're starting off with people, and we'd love to end every interview with it. Is just tell our listeners, what does this hobby mean to you?
The hobby to me, like I've said in the past or earlier in the show, is the camaraderie, the friendships, and the community. That's 100% what it means to me. The modeling is secondary because it is kind of a solitary thing till you get to hang out with the community. Or on social media, but actually sitting down, talking to everybody face to face and laughing and joking around. And that's what it means to me. That's the whole hobby.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been an hour and a half of just pure joy. I'm super stoked that we got you on, and I can't wait to catch up again, not only online, but in person.
Was that 90 minutes, Frank? Holy cow.
Really?
Honestly, I mean, it just seems like we've been talking for 5 minutes. I mean, Thank you for taking the time. And man, this was a blast.
It really was. It's a lot of fun. See, that's what the community's about. What we just had for the past 90 minutes. That's what it is. And that answered my last question right there.
Bingo.
But yeah, thank you guys. Like I said, you guys are family, friends and family. And
Absolutely.
I look forward to the day we can all get together.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. And so listeners, if you want to find Frank's work, he posts mostly on, I know you're over on the Insanity. I think you post a little on the Dojo and then also in the Plastic Posse. And, be on the lookout for his awesome KV hybrid, the Butte Panzer, the Sergeant York he's working on. And then also, Frank, you got a lot of, I love your test articles as well. Those are sweet and tell a story. So listeners, be sure to check him out, give him a friend request. And then if you see his work at the show, say hi. Yeah, man. KV turret. Right? I'm guessing that was the donor turret from the Wilder kit.
No, this is an old This is an old Eastern Express turret.
Oh boy. Okay. So, that's about the best use for that turret then.
It is. But if you look there real quick, I don't know if you can see it, the different colors.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do a test shot. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different OD greens that Mission Miles produces. And I wanted to see all the colors together in number order. So I did that test shot to see how they worked out. And some of them are completely brown or dark,
Yeah.
But those are some of the things I do.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Every aspect of it. It's a lot of fun. And I'll also throw out, I'll give you some crap. I don't think I've seen anybody own more Dragon M4A1 kits. You had posted a picture last year and I was like, did this guy corner the market in like 1997 with these? Like, holy cow.
If you're looking for something, I got it.
It also looks like he has stock in Andy's hobby headquarters, too.
I know, right? Lord.
I also, with TJ, I gave TJ a heads up, and John Hale gave me a heads up when we bought that new Lima conversion by Tiger Model Designs. I just got that in the other day. What a sweet little kit conversion.
Nice. Yeah, there's a few people to talk to about Shermans, and you just rattled them off, especially John Hale and David Hobbs. Awesome.
I got all my Sherman books, plus the new ones that just came out. So that big set, but that's off in the distance. That's not right now.
No, I love it. I think a lot of us have the Sherman bug lately. Maybe we need to put it into action and do another group build around Shermans.
Yeah, pick one out. I got them.
Sweet. Well, again, Frank, this has been awesome. Literally, we could just keep talking because it's just been a great experience, and we will definitely have you back. This has been a pure joy.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You as well.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was an honor.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Cheers, Frank.
Bye.
Well, that was a great interview with Frank, and I really appreciate him coming out and talking like that, and, sharing his troubles and how he's been advancing with it and what he's done for the hobby and done in the hobby. Now we're going to head over to some feedback. So we got a first one is from Michael Geyer. First of all, he loved the interview with Steve Baker talking about aircraft and all his processes. He brought up some really cool points about him and his dad. His dad was an Australian soldier building a 113A1, their tactical vehicle. Also talking about when he was a kid and he advanced farther, he started to play with his models a little bit more. I can definitely relate. I remember blowing up a PT-109 in the snow with firecrackers because I thought it was water and it was cool to do. So I just wanted to reach back to you guys, everybody in the group here, is how do you guys feel about that? Do you guys have those kind of memories too?
Yeah, we had irrigation canals in the town I was brought up in. I thought that's what they were for, is to put model ships in there with M80 firecrackers or shoot at them with BB guns. No, the interview with Steve was great. I'm glad that Michael, brought some really great memories of him building with his dad, and thought his feedback was terrific.
That's good, Scott. I appreciate that. In another one we had from Aaron Cook, talked about pulling all of his shelf queens down, putting them in front of him and start working on all of them individually, which I think is a great idea, Aaron. And he showed some progress pictures with all of us, shared some progress pictures on it. And he talks about how it really helped motivate him to finish these inherent building lulls, I guess is what he said, or pronounced it as. He also talked about hating the post in progress photos because of his own issues with trusting the process. So Justin Lynch challenged me to post pictures of all his builds, like we talked about, and he did some great work. It's really neat, Aaron. I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. Next one is Craig Flynn, good friend down under. All right, he talks about listening about Steve. Also in his reply, he brought up a really good point to me that when he has trouble with his mojo, he goes back to what his mom told him during COVID. And his mom said, start with putting your shoes on and then go from there. So it's a process. You start with your shoes, you go up, you build on and build on and build on. This kind of reminds me of the clip that we talked about before we started recording. There's a naval commander out there, pretty famous clip. I'm sure most of you have seen it, where he talks about you start your day with a win, and that win is by making your bed. So I find that very interesting that Craig uses that almost exact same kind of philosophy to get out of his mojo. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. Do you find that helpful?
Yeah, for sure. Like when I have a project that's really frustrating me, just make a list and break things down. If you're hung up on an aircraft cockpit, just grab the seat, just work on the seat for a while. If you're working on a tank and, you're building the tracks and you just kind of bored of putting track links together, grab the machine gun on top of the turret, just put the machine gun together, just break it down into small little tasks. And Jensen, I think you and I have actually kind of talked about this exact thing together when we're kind of in a funk, breaking things down.
Yeah, did it with the Stuart. The suspension was really doing my head in, so I started working on the engine and then started working on the turret. And it's like, right, well, it's annoying me right now. I'll come back to it later when I'm got a more level head and I can try and work out the issue rather than try and fight a battle I'm obviously going to lose in the mindset I'm currently in.
I also think it helps you avoid turning small things into big things, which I know none of us do, but I do it on every project. You run into a roadblock, you get frustrated, you go upstairs, next day you come down, you're like, I don't want to get back to that. But usually if you do, it's not as big a deal as at least I make it out to be. So
that's great, guys. I appreciate that. If you have feedback, I'm sure there's going to be feedback with this episode. Airplane guys, go ahead and send your feedback to Plastic Posse Podcast. We'll look at it, we'll read it and see what we can do.
I'm really looking forward to next.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Okay, so now we're going to do our technically second discussion point because we had a bit of a spontaneous one earlier on in the episode. So this is from Jesse Hosmer in the Plastic Posse. We're going to quote what he said and then discuss it. So this post is for everyone, including the Posse guys from the podcast. So I'm having trouble getting back into modeling. So for me, I see so many YouTube modelers and people on Facebook, and their stuff is so good. And I look at what I've done, and to me, it looks like a 12-year-old did it. Now, I've been building since I was 6 years old, off and on. I've even won some awards. So what I'm wondering is, how do I get back into the spirit to keep on going and turn out amazing stuff again? I just look at my piles of stuff and it's like others can do better. Please help. Yeah, I think that's something at some point everyone here has had to deal with. You look at the stuff you're doing and you compare it to the stuff that other people are doing and you're just like, I can't do that and I'm never going to be able to do that. And the absolute worst thing you can do to yourself, and not just in this hobby, but anything in life, is compare yourself to others. And it's easy. I know it's easy for me to say that I'm one of the worst for doing it. And I know it's self-sabotage at that point. When you compare yourself to others, it's such a pessimistic lens. You're not going to be able to see it as, I can do that, I'm going to get to that. You just think, I'm not going to be able to do that. And it's kind of a mentality that's kind of hard to break because it's something I struggle with all the time. But before I go on a bit of a tangent, I want to know what everyone else has to think about it.
So I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there.
You're wrong, so it doesn't matter.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I do compare myself to other people, and I do it a lot. And I find more often than not, I'm not saying this never happened, but typically I get positive reinforcement from that because I look at what other people do that are better than me, and then I look at what I do, and I'm like, okay, I can do what they do, right? And part of that is kind of what we touched on earlier. I don't think modeling is really that hard. And I don't think that there's not a modeler on this planet that has some sort of unnatural talent that can't be learned or refined through practice. And I wholeheartedly believe that even the best of the best, they all got there because they worked really hard to get there. And we've talked about this before. So that's why when I see someone that does something really, really good, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get there hopefully one day, and I'm going to do it by working really hard and not sell myself short with what I do and just be like, all right, cool. I'll get there. Right. Like I look at Fabio Sacchi's Sherman models, which I think are some of the best on the planet. He's an amazing modeler. I'm like, okay, cool. I see what he did there. I've talked to him about it and I'm like, got it. I can do all of those things. Maybe I can't do them as good as him right now, but if I do it more and I work really hard at it, I'll get to where he is someday, hopefully. I get that's not a lot of people don't do that. And I'm not saying I never get discouraged by looking at that stuff that's way better than what I can do. Sometimes I do. I have those days like anyone else, but I'm typically an optimist when it comes to that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to modeling. But I'm sure you guys know, and I know JB and Jensen have heard me do it. I've been down on myself too when it comes to modeling and things not turning out the way that I want them to be. But yeah,
I think, what you said is important, because I do think that we can be inspired by the work of other people. And I do think, when we say don't compare yourself to others, I don't want people to, be ostrich about it, stick your head in the ground and not look at anything else. But, we've talked about that part of this before. We ran a clip from Adam Savage from his Tested YouTube where he talked about the dangers of the comparative mind. And I think it's all about mindset. TJ, you spoke of, really setting goals and being inspired and, wanting to kind of work towards a goal. And I think all those are really, really good things. But yeah, I think you can definitely have the hobby turn negative if your mindset is, look at what these guys are doing and how come I can't do it. And, that can send you on a spiral. And so I think it's important to, just remind yourself that this is a hobby. It's supposed to be something that we're doing to blow off some steam and something that we're enjoying, and then find ways to fuel your desire to get better in ways that work for you.
Yeah. For me, this is going to sound weird. I build for me, but I, like TJ, certainly compare my work to others in a way of what I want to achieve. Going to SMC and seeing it in the flesh and talking to those individuals. And by the way, they're all friggin' awesome. I mean, I sat down with Lester at the bar and talked for 2 hours on dust and dirt techniques. And I'd be foolish to say that I don't compare my work to others. I'd be foolish to say that I don't strive to achieve what others have achieved. I certainly build for me, but those individuals and their work, like Scott said, is true inspiration. And here, spoiler alert, why do we buy modeling books if we don't want to compare ourselves to others? I mean, in my mind, you buy a modeling book to learn, grow, and achieve something that you want to based on someone else's work. So again, I'm rooted in the foundation that, yes, I'm building for me. And at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that whatever I produce satisfies my desire. But I'm not going to make any bones about it. I do compare myself to other people's work because that's what I want to achieve. And like TJ said, when I see something I like, I will become hyper focused on it and ask those individuals how they did X, Y, and Z. I think what's a common trait or a common theme amongst everybody in achieving a great model is one word, and it's discipline. And it goes back to our discussion earlier around complexity of finish, where TJ has talked about this a lot. Everybody can build a pretty awesome model. It's just having the discipline to go through the methodical steps of what someone has done to achieve the finish you want. I think that's the one thing that's missing from books and one thing that's missing from even YouTube videos. And Night Shift is a great example where you see what he achieves and his videos are 20, 30 minutes long. And I think that gives the perception that his work is quick. But what people don't see is the 60 to 80 hours of work every week to achieve what he has done. And that's the thing where this is not a quick fix. This is not shake and bake. We talk about slammers. I love them. Don't get me wrong. But to like that, we've talked about that one project you want to level up. You got to have discipline. And it's okay to not achieve it. But if you set it as a goal, maybe you'll get there one day. But I guess, again, basics is I build for me, but I certainly use other people's work to compare mine to, because that's what I want to achieve. And I want to learn how to get there.
Yeah, I agree with everybody else. I mean, I also build for myself, but I pour through books and I pour through pictures and everything else. I was lucky enough with JB and Rick Lawler and a couple other people to walk through Virgo Vault's house in Las Vegas before he had his museum. And we were literally surrounded by thousands of pieces of art, of miniature figures, anything you can imagine. And once you have an experience like that, it's probably like SMC. It's probably like, I know it's like MMSI in Chicago. It is kind of, you find yourself leveled to in your building, because you're sitting there looking at pieces that are so good and you want to achieve that. And that really drives me. Now, Jesse, this is a great question. And I really like it. And you say, what can I do to turn on his will to make amazing stuff again? I think, my opinion only, just take a little bit every day, paint something, build something every day, 15, 20 minutes. And you will find, and I find that this helps me with my mojo. It helps me building more, and it makes me feel better about the process. Yeah, it's going to take a while, but you know what? By doing it every day, I think that's going to help you, Jesse. I also want to say, hats off to the entire Posse out there. There are some fantastic replies to this question out there on the page. I appreciate everybody's reply. It's fantastic. And, it's stuff like this when we see the group and the organization come together. It makes me very proud to be a part of it. But just take something every day. And of course, what we all do is something different. We're all motivated by different things, motivated by showing ourselves, maybe getting it printed, maybe getting an award. It doesn't matter. But as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters. Enjoy the process.
I think as well, just going back to when he asks, how do I get back the spirit to keep on going and turn out amazing stuff? I think it's like with any hobby and why anyone does anything. Remember why you started in the first place. Remember why you fell in love with it. And if need be, go back to basics. Really simplify it for yourself. Go back to, and this is something I thought about when I've been in like such a bad rut with this hobby. And I'm just like, why am I doing it? Why am I even bothering anymore? And the thing that actually gets me a little bit excited, motivated is thinking, and it doesn't sound silly actually when I think about it, but thinking about getting an Earthix starter set. When I was young, that's what got me into this hobby. I loved it. It was the simplicity of a starter set, a couple of paints, brushes. And I think about that, and I think about the enjoyment that could bring. And then all of a sudden that thought of enjoyment and that feeling, it's like, yeah, that's why I got into this. That's why I'm doing it, because deep down, I love this. It's hard because the fire's not going to be on 100% burning all the time. I don't think it ever can be. It's going to have moments where it cools down a little. You'll always love it. There'll just be periods of time where you're either really in it or just having a little bit of time away from it.
I really like that, Jensen. And also one thing I want to come back to that TJ said and JB kind of doubled down on, they mentioned seeing a piece of work that inspired them and then talking and reaching out to the people that are doing it and asking them. I mean, if you are online and you see something on the Posse or wherever that you like, send them a note and say, hey, I really love how you did the dust on the running gear on that tank. Can we talk about it? I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, absolutely, let's talk. Most people are as passionate about the hobby as you are. And I'm sure, they probably say, hey, yeah, let's talk about that. If not, I mean, there's plenty of other people that I think would love to engage in that conversation with you. So I think that reaching out or that, communicating and talking about that with somebody can also help.
I kind of want to go back to something that JB mentioned because it's my favorite talking point. Just like I've said, practice. And just like JB said, yeah, you watch a 25-minute night shift video and it's great. You see him build the whole thing. But like JB said, you don't see all the work that he put into it, like to get to that point. And it's the same thing. Like you go to a model show or a contest and you see an amazing model on the table, but you didn't see all the work that person put into it or all the work they put into the ones before. And it just reminds me like, and sorry, Scott, 'cause I'm sure this is probably a sore memory for you, but seeing Randy Moss catch 3 touchdowns for 163 yards in 1998 and destroy the Cowboys was awesome. And you look at that and you're like, man, Randy Moss is amazing. How he's just so good. That just must be the way he is. I'm like, yeah, kind of. I mean, he was 6'4" and fast as hell, but you didn't see all the drills that he ran for years and all the work that he put in the weight room and all the work he did to be the receiver that he became, right? Like he didn't just wake up one day and he's like, yeah, I'm going to put up one of the best stat lines ever just because why not? No, who cares? Just going to be fun today. It's Thanksgiving. Let's put on a show for people. No, he did it because he worked really hard his whole life to get to that point. And the same thing with building models, right? Like these guys that got really, really good, they worked really hard to get there. It's not, they didn't just wake up one day and, it out like an amazing, like gold medal model just for the hell of it, right? Like it took work, like a lot of work. And yeah, I just, that's one of my favorite talking points. You can put that on my tombstone for all I care. Yeah. Everyone can get there if they put in the effort.
Yeah, and I think I'll talk about a topic that's very adjacent to this. Putting in the work, but also understanding your first day, your first week, your first month. You're not going to see that many results. You're not going to see much results. Let's just be honest. And I'll use an example. I'm like, I need to get in shape. I want to lose some weight. And I remember one day at work, I'm like, I'm doing it, and I downloaded an app, and that was 3 months ago, a little over 3 months. I could barely run 2 miles without being out of breath. And since then, chipping away at it every day, walking to running. Now I'm doing 3 to 5 miles of running, and I've lost 30 pounds, and I got a goal of losing 20 more. I think the point of this is you're not going to see results up front. It's going to suck. You're going to step on, like me, stepping on the scale. It's like, oh my God, I'm a week in and I haven't done anything. But there's going to be moments where it shifts. And if you keep chipping away at it, you'll reach those new highs. You'll plateau a little bit, but you keep grinding and you'll reach another new high. And it's the same principle for scale modeling as well. I wasn't the best airbrusher on model number 2, but model 17, model 40 now, 50, I could literally probably close my eyes and crank out a 3-tone camo scheme. But I do that through practice and muscle memory and all these things. So I think bottom line is don't get discouraged up front. It's like my figures. They're pretty much worse than what you could buy at a toy store. And I'm talking the Green Army men, for crying out loud. But you just got to keep at it. Trust the process, as we've talked about. And like TJ said, just put in the work and you'll get there, and ask for feedback. Get the community behind you, because you can do it. Great topic, Jensen.
I know, it's fantastic. Thanks, Scott, for that, to be honest. He messaged you, was like, do you think this would be good? I'm like, actually, yes, it would.
That's my topic now. Thank you. I'm taking this.
Before we move on, I do want to throw out that, like, I sympathize with what Jesse said. Like, sometimes it is hard. Even going back to everything I just said, and even to where I am in scale modeling now, even all what I've managed to accomplish, and I think I've mentioned this on a previous episode, like at SMC last year, I put down my model next to Spud's Easy 8 Sherman I think it was to the right of mine. And then on the tier above was Lester Plaskett's M1 Abrams. So I just happened to find an empty spot, probably because no one else wanted to put their stuff there, next to 2 of the best models at the show, right? And then like Pete Usher's, whatever, that Russian self-propelled gun, that was like right next to it. Was all within, like, you're saying, oh, they're all right here. Okay, cool. All the best models. And here's my stupid Sherman. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, that was humbling. And it was like, I don't think I should have brought this. It like briefly flashed through my mind. I'm like, this might have been a mistake. I think I'm going to go home embarrassed. Because like, yeah, I get it. Like that can be hard. And especially because, like, look at all the amazing stuff like on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And I get it. Yeah, that is, I do sympathize. I think everyone goes through that. I don't care how good you are. There's always someone better than you. That old adage, which, you've heard probably your whole life. But yeah, even when you're at the top, which I'm not saying that I am, because I'm not, but no matter where you are, there's always gonna be someone better than you. I guarantee you all those guys probably look at other models and are like, damn, that's really good. Mine is not as good as that. Like, I don't think there's anyone on the planet that just is, yep, mine's the best ever. No, nothing is ever going to be better than this.
Well, sorry, John, to your point, everybody on this call who's never felt exactly what Jesse's verbalizing here, raise your hand. I mean, we've all struggled through this. We've all helped each other, I think, at various times kind of get through this. I think it's part of the hobby is, as John said, hitting a plateau and feeling like, why can't I get any better? Why can I not break on through or whatever? But everybody feels that way. I know I certainly feel that way a lot.
Yeah, and I think one of the strongest things to do, or one of the quickest way to get that sense of inspiration, mojo, and to be honest, reality check, is entering at a show, no matter what skill level you are. I mean, TJ just exemplified it. You walk in and you're like, whoa. And Jensen said it following last year's show. It's like, I know what the standard is now. I've seen it. I've touched it. I've talked to people. And, Jesse, I get that you might not think you're the best scale modeler, and that's okay. I would still enter at a show because, again, pointing back to TJ, there's something, I don't know, you can't even describe it, where you put your work on the table next to something that's better or worse or on par. You're still learning. And just seeing your work next to something that you inspire to get to, you can start to see the lines and how to connect where you are today with what you want to achieve. And you can sit there and go, okay, here's mine. Here's Spud's. Okay, wow, he did X, Y, and Z. I can see it. This is where I would have liked to have done it on mine. And you can automatically start to draw, your piece closer to what you want to achieve. And that's educational for the next time. And then you've also created a friend that can support you.
And also, just to provide some validation, he said he's won awards. So clearly he's doing something right. He's clearly good. So yeah. I think you are feeling worse about your own level than it actually is, because evidently you are good.
I think one other thing might be interesting too. It's social media and YouTube for that matter. The camera makes models look better in a lot of cases. And honestly, the pictures you take, that might be just a misnomer where your quality of photograph is not as good as the other people posting online. Because I've seen some models in person and I've seen them posted online. I'm like, whoa, that is a different model. And I've heard editors say it as well. And I've literally heard one that's a world famous aircraft modeler go, yeah, my stuff just photographs well. He's like, you see it in person, it's okay, but it photographs really well. And guess what? It does. So I think that's another aspect of, I guess, the mental block or influence from others is sometimes what you see is not necessarily, what's in person. So that's another thing to think about too.
Damn, I didn't expect to be called out like that. my models look better in photos than they do in real life.
It wasn't you that said it, by the way.
I know. I know it wasn't me. It is true though. I do believe that.
One other thing I also wanted to bring up is you're kind of focused on the end result, right? How can I make a model as good as Joe over here, right? Maybe focus on the journey. This is supposed to be a hobby. You've had a rough day at work. You want to grab a kit, take it down to the bench, open it up and work on something, kind of work through some of your frustrations on the day. So maybe focus on, some of the process and not so much the end result. And, I have to think if you're enjoying what you're doing all through the process, that the end result inevitably is going to be better, or at least it's going to be more enjoyable.
To go off on another little tangent. Not to necessarily disagree with you, Scott, but I do hear that a lot. We're like, oh, it's just a hobby. But just because it's a hobby doesn't mean you can't take it serious either, right? Like, I think all of us here, we take this hobby pretty seriously. I know I do. Like, it's not life or death, obviously. It's, my family isn't depending on my models, but like, I take building models as good as I can pretty serious. And we've probably all had that interaction with someone that's not a modeler that doesn't really understand it. Like, oh, it's just like I just build the models. Yeah, it is, but like I'm like really serious about it. As weird as that sounds, I think JB has mentioned it before. Like when you meet another modeler that gets it, like another person that gets it that you didn't necessarily know as a modeler, like, yeah, it is. It's different for a lot of us. No, it's not like that for everyone. Some people just generally don't care. It's just what they do for fun. But like, it's more than what I just do for fun. It's what I do. Yeah.
I mean, we joke that we build toys, and that's true. I think what we understand is I'm trying to think like that. And I don't know if it's an inflection point or it's a moment that you understand where the line is essentially. Like, yes, I take it very seriously. I'd be lying if I didn't. To say that I'm not obsessed with it is crazy. I am obsessed with it. It's the hobby that I go to. It's the thing I love the most outside of family, obviously, but it's like my thing. I also recognize that it's toys and I can get past it. Like if something breaks at the bench, or, if I miss something and I can't go and hang out at a show, it's not the show and it's not the toys at the show. It's the people, and it's really the hang out with friends. So I think what we all on the line here and a lot of our friends recognize that, where yes, it's toys, but man, we take it seriously and we love it. It's made us who we are in ways. And, I make no bones about it that I tell people, yeah, I'm obsessed with it. Yeah, I have a podcast. I spend every waking minute when I'm not with family or trying to better myself in other ways. I'm at the bench, or at least thinking about it. Honestly, I only have social media for scale modeling because I'm that obsessed with it. If it wasn't for scale modeling, I'd be a ghost in this world. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think it's a fine line we all understand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not saying don't take it seriously, and I don't think you guys are saying I did, but yeah, just finding that fine line, John, I think that's a really good way to say that. Hey, Jensen, how are things going over there? What time is it?
Oh, let me just check. Oh, that's right. It's time for merch. If you would like to rep the posse, check out our awesome merch at the Triple P Spring page. You can find coffee mugs, t-shirts, jumpers, or even some of our world-famous Triple P lounge trousers. You can order all your stylish plastic posse merch on the web at www.loungetrousers.com. Let's head over to TJ for some cross-promotion.
The Plastic Posse is one of several great scale modeling podcasts. If you are interested in more scale modeling content, head on over to modelpodcast.com, where you will find links to many other great podcasts about our hobby. The Posse also recommends several excellent modeling blogs and vlogs, such as Rick Lawler's Propaganda YouTube channel, Clayton Ockerby's Workbench Hobbies, Stephen Lee's Sprue Pie with Frets, Chris Wallace's Model Airplane Maker, Jim Bates' Scale Canadian TV, even though Jim likes to leave me out of memories, and David Brian Bridges' DB Scale Modeling Studios blog.
Okay, so thank you for riding along with us for episode 99 of the Plastic Posse. We appreciate your support, as well as the support of our awesome Patreons. We also like to thank Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, and AK Interactive for supporting what we do. And remember, the Plastic Posse is available on YouTube. We will return in 2 weeks for more discussions about scale modeling. Do you have feedback, suggestions, ideas, or just want to drop us a line? Send it to us at our email, plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. And see you again for episode 100. Yeehaw!
One of the ways that you can help to support the Plastic Posse is to become an outrider. If you want to become a Plastic Posse outrider, that's pretty easy. You just go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Plastic Posse podcast, and you can set up a recurring donation there. And these contributions help offset the cost of bringing you the Triple P. There are 3 different tiers of support, and they start at just $1 a month. There's also some great benefits to being an outrider, like early access to our podcast, premium access to the hosts, a chance to appear on one of our podcasts, and exclusive Triple P content and social events at model shows.
Let's recognize our amazing deputy marshals. These contributors help the posse do what we do, and we sincerely thank them for their support. They are Brett Marcan, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Ben Hardaway, Craig Jarbo, Adam Jackson, Red Beach One Studios, James Mirondo, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Ravina, John Hale, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Scale Modelcraft, Kenneth Childress, Nick Butta, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, The Voice of Bob, Jeremy Diamond, Ryan Smith, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Idenmill, Steve Baker, Joe Porche, Patrick Brown, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Fracalla, John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Matt Johnston, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knopfel, and JC Osborne.
Let's not forget our posse foreman. This crew is made up of posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand. And we also thank them for their support. They are AK Armor, Bill, JAK, Casey, Larissa, Raphael, Warhammer, Adjacent, Russ, Stefan, Mikkel, LeVar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Steve, Winston, Scott, Emery, The Krieger, Aussie Modeler, William, Keith, Sunkissed, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhoff Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Len, Cliff, Damian, Cody, Nukeman Mike, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Robert, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Steve Munsell, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free Posse Outriders. We appreciate all of you, like James and William. Lastly, please consider posting a review of the Triple P on your favorite podcast platform. Each review helps other modelers find the Plastic Posse. Thanks for riding along, and we'll see you next time.
100, blimey. We're at 100. We're getting old.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
You guys have got to be all you guys that have been here since like day one, Scott, TJ.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy.
TJ getting a phone call. Hey, man, should we do a podcast? Anyway.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was looking through my phone the other day. So I'm like, I'm going to delete some of these notes. And I found in like my notes app on my iPhone, I found, let me pull it up.
Crazy wants me to do a podcast.
I have a Scott guy.
Episode 1 podcast notes right here.
Wow.
Like the original one from August 24th, 2020.
Wow.
Jeez.
We have come. It is so much different now. It's not even funny. Not even funny.
I'm trying to think. Was fucking Scale Model Shed still going on at that point? Or did we die a death?
I think you had just hung it up at that point.
Yeah.
Because when you guys went out, you nuked it was gone.
Yeah.
There was no phasing it out. There was nothing.
It was just we are dead.
Yeah.
Not my decision, but I would have kept all the episodes up there.
First guest, JB,
John Benani, and the tomahawk steak.
You should send those to me. I'll put them in the Scale Prospector.
You should.
All right, I will.
That's awesome.
It's pretty long note. That was, I guess before we did like a Google Docs.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
See, these Tennesseans taught me well.
Southern gentleman you are now.
That's right. I learned to say, bless your heart. No.
My pleasure.
So it's,
man.
But yeah, Grant, this is the stage I'm at right now. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Got the wacky worms all over it.
Yeah, I'm playing with the brown. I actually decided to make the brown spots a little bigger, as you can see.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really crazy with the brown color, but I'm going to play around with some OPR. I'm going to, when I weather it, or maybe even do a, which I'm not big on, but I might do a dot filter to see how it plays out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, which
those things sat in the desert, at 29 Palms and at TC, and they just faded.
Bleached.
Yeah, they faded so fast, because they were, and then they went to ranges where they got just annihilated. But they did. They, like you said, they just bleached like you wouldn't believe.
So, yeah, I mean the paint they used on them, like I went back and I watched Rick Lawler's video on his 260s. Just to see his paint job, and he did a phenomenal job with that one.
Yeah.
So it kind of spurred me.
Yeah, cart paint does not last. It does not last at all.
No.
So that's that paint. So
I like to give Rick crap though, because on his M60 he cheated and he didn't use tracks.
No,
where
he could have put a half a track on it, like in some of the photos.
Yeah. But he saw those tack on tracks like me and you, and like, nope, not today.
I built those things, and my opinion on those is they're over engineered. On the modeling scale, just way over engineered. Which I built them all, but they just felt flimsy to me. They weren't strong. They weren't they felt like they were going to fall apart if I put any stress on them to get them on or off or whatever it may have been. Yeah. So I went with the Fruhl model tracks. I didn't realize every pad you have to put in. So there's like 8 million pads.
Yeah, I saw your painting. You had them all stuck on painter's tape.
That's it. So somebody came to me at my last club meeting, Tony Higgs, and he goes, the Israelis took those pads off and they just ran the tracks without the pads.
Yep.
So he's like, I'm looking for those tracks for my next build. I'm like, I got them on eBay. He goes, I can't find them.
Yeah.
I got a set. I'll sell you.
Dude.
I didn't know that, which would be an interesting thing on an Israeli tank is running those tracks without the pads.
They did the same thing. Same thing with the 113s. They pulled all the pads off those too.
I mean, think about it. The pads wouldn't last long, or they get ripped right off anyway if you go into different terrain.
Yeah.
Leave it to the Americans to try to save the roads.
Yeah. Jeez, oh man. Yeah. Dude, your York is looking fantastic. I love the like Grant was saying, the mule and the different colors. I think your airbrushing is spot on. I don't know what questions you're going to ask me because I need to ask you questions, my friend.
What's driving me crazy? What's driving me crazy, and I think it has to do with the humidity, nothing else, is I'm getting them overspray no matter what I do. I play with all the air pressures. I'm playing with the ratios on the thinning. Paint? I've done a couple different paints. I did the Tamiya. The ones I put on this now is the AK. But I even bought the new Atom paints, which I want to play around with those a little more. But this is painted with. I went out and got this set.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and I kind of got the overspray down a lot, but I still had to use the worms just to totally kill it.
What color is giving you that overspray?
The brown.
Bingo. Okay, so I'm going to make some unfounded comments here, but they're based on my perception and experience. So listeners, if you're listening to the Be Real, this is John's take, not proved on scientific fact. I think brown, there is something with the pigments in brown paint that cause it to be very difficult to airbrush. And I have found it with AK, ammo, Tamiya, all of them. I have found that spraying browns, specifically darker chocolate browns, I get unbelievable overspray. And it's very difficult, especially, I'm looking over my shoulder here. The chocolate browns, honestly, all browns in the AK, acrylic form and ammo acrylic form in the dropper bottles. Oh my gosh! I feel like every 10 seconds I'm removing the nozzle, taking a sponge to the needle tip to pull off the paint dry, and it's like I can get through almost like a single little pattern before it just starts spinning.
Buy the retarder. And try that, because I found the retarder does help with the spattering or the overspray. It doesn't completely eliminate it. Yeah, but it does control it a lot more.
You know who makes really good browns for airbrushing, and JB's not a fan. MRP makes really good browns for airbrushing. Yeah,
I have to try it, because and I said this to JB, that I'm a paint whore. I try paints. I buy paints. I'm not opposed.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And that's just what's on display.
Exactly. I got it all in storage bins. But even the new Atom paints, I wanted to try them, and I do like them, but I have to learn them more. I don't like the graininess. They do cover well, but they're still a little grainy when you start applying them. So, I got to adjust my ratios in the mixing stage.
Yeah,
I think they have to be over
wet. Yep.
Yeah, they got to be over thinned. I would think more like a 70% thinner to paint.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, you
said retarder. Yeah.
And I'm finding the AK retarder works and everything. And here's another little tip with the Atom paints. If you can't get the thinner, the Mission Model paints thinner work fine in them. Oh, and nice. you can mix both those paints together.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I find that the new acrylic thinner from AK works pretty well too. That stuff that works really well.
The Gen 3 stuff, this one?
Yeah. No, not that one. Yeah, that is one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That one? Not this one.
That's the one. Yeah. No, the first one. Yeah, that one.
The first,
White cap.
I have to try that.
Yeah.
It's good to know, because how's that paint retarder work?
This is actually really good. So Tamiya's paint retarder, I got this for free at Nats as a gift, because they typically give out a little item at Nats. That's where I got my Mr. Mark Fit Strong. But they gave away paint retarder a couple of years ago, and I have found, and you can see, I don't use much of this. I literally take a drop, and I have used it with Vallejo paints. I've put it in Tamiya. I've used it in AK Real Colors. It's a very versatile product. And again, I'm only using like a drop of it. So I'll put like a stick in there, pull it out, and then drop it onto the paint I'm, either airbrushing, or I don't tend to use it that much in airbrushing, because I mix X22 clear in my paints, because I like the satin finish. And then I also feel like the clear just retards the drying time. But from a hand brushing perspective, this Tamiya retarder is really good. And you can get it for a few bucks. I mean, you're a paint connoisseur, so another bottle ain't going to break the camera.
What's the difference? What I like to do when I airbrush the retarders is I'll put retarder in the paint, but I also put a drop in the cup of the airbrush before I start painting.
Yep.
And I'll run that through just to lubricate the whole inside of the airbrush parts and the needle. And that seems to help too with the tip drive.
I agree. When I airbrush water-based acrylics, that's a good way to go. That to me, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure Tamiya designed that to make their paints paintbrush better, get rid of brush strokes, but it works really good in the airbrush with water-based acrylics.
Yeah, it's actually a new product for me to use. The other thing I just got into is the A-clad, but only one color. I bought this. It's for the vision blocks. They make the vision block green. And I tell you, it adds just that subtle greenish blue one coat, and it's just enough for all the vision blocks. I wish they would come out with the orange for the modern stuff.
Yeah.
This hobby's all about trial and error, testing and playing around. It's funny. It's not funny, but somebody was getting out of the hobby, and I got a whole bunch of kits. So I got this L70.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to ask about it.
And somebody else built it, so I would never build it for myself. So it's just, all it is a mule.
Yeah.
It became a mule. Some other my testing out different paints and how I can wear them. What's nice, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I don't know if there's enough light on it. Anyway, with the Mission models, this gray, you can actually burnish it like it's worn. Like if something's rubbing on it, it doesn't chip the paint, but it burnishes it and makes it a shiny area. One thing that's really a plus about that medium, it's a very weak medium if you don't use the poly.
Yeah.
But if you do the poly, you can't do these other things. So you have to apply over it. And I think a lot of guys complain about that paint because of the shelf life of the poly, which is fine.
Yeah.
All polys have a shelf life. And the weakness of the paint, like if you don't put the poly and you put decals over it, you can pull the paint.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you have to put an overcoat on it, and it stops that. But some guys don't like to do those extra steps,
Yeah, and I think we talked about this at Atlanta. I'll be honest, I don't like MMP that much, but that's my experience. Different strokes for different folks. Like Frank, you're building kick-ass models. Who am I to tell you that Mission models sucks? Like that's not the case for you, and it's just for me. Like I've had some. I prefer other brands, but I'm not going to tell anybody to use whatever. Use what you can. Use what you like, and just if you're creating great results, hell, you can be using Apple Barrel or Sears and Roebuck paint for all I care.
Yeah. Or Bear, it's not my go-to paint, but it's a paint that I know if I need to use it for something specific, I have it and I understand how to use it. Yeah. And that's the whole process, is understanding your mediums and how they work and how they don't work. And that's where all the mules come in. I paint more on mules than I do regular kits.
It's all learning.
It is.
So
it is. It's all. That's how you get better.
So Frank, I got to throw out.
Push myself.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. That's how I push myself.
Yeah. Well, I was going to throw out this. This is a 50-year-old bottle of Pactra. Do you have any of these laying around in the stash?
I have a whole bunch of Poly S paints, which were railroad colors at that time. I don't have any Pactra, and I have Humbrol in the tins.
Nice. Humbrol still has a purpose for weathering.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned Poly S. Some of those bottles go for big money in the railroad community. Yeah. Because you can't get them anymore.
No, I have a bottle of thinner. Yeah. Wasn't Poly S and Folkwell, didn't one of them purchase each other? Did Folkwell
I think they merged at some point. Poly S, Folkwell, all those railroad colors, like the reefer colors and everything. Yeah. Those I've seen bottles go for, $20 to $50 on eBay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, Grant.
Yes.
I got a project for you. I just got to get it out to you. But
nice.
Nice.
That's a conversion I did years ago in War Machine. This is a Cador figure.
That's cool. Oh, cool. Man. Love the gun, man. That's cool.
Yeah. I had a whole Cador on me years ago. Right. I sold it all, but I forgot I had this one. I found it not that long ago. So I'm thinking, as I'm looking at it, that you would probably do a great job painting it, so I can send it out to you and display it and put it in shows and
bring it to Chicago. Come to Chicago.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah. Let's meet up. Bring it with you.
And I have a ton of Space Marines that I bought at a swap meet.
Yeah.
Most of them are all unpainted. So if anybody's interested in them, let me know.
Definitely. Definitely will.
I started playing around with yellows on them because I like the yellow Space Marines.
Yeah. The Imperial Fists. I cannot do yellow.
That yellow is hard. It's the hardest color to paint, yellow.
Yeah, it is. It is. It sucks.
Do you have any contrast paints, Frank? Have you tried
I
those
do.
out?
I have a whole. I'm a paint whore. Of course I do. I got
Those are
tons of
great.
contrast paints.
Yeah.
I've started
That's a
experimenting
medium
with them.
too.
Yeah.
Experiment with them because
Yeah.
it's a medium that actually you have to understand how to use. You can't just
Yep.
plop it on like they say.
Yeah.
You actually
Right.
gotta. That's a medium that you have to do in layers.
Yeah.
You know, you almost. What do they call it? What's today's technique? When they make the paint really thin and you do it in layers.
Like filters almost.
Filters.
It's almost like a filter. They have another term for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I
Glazing.
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 Yeah,
there you go.
That's it. So
Yeah.
here's some of my Valhallans. I'm gonna
Wow.
put
Nice.
the light on that.
Yeah.
These are all contrast paints. Can
Yeah.
you, wait. Can you see that?
There you go.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Nice.
So sorry, I'm not. There we go. So these are all metal figures that I've repainted probably a dozen times over the years.
Wow. Wow.
I even have World War One figures. I was getting into that for gaming. I got Germans. I have Americans. I have two huge Flames of War armies, Soviet and German.
Wow.
Dude, you are a
X-Wing.
gamer. Holy cow.
I was going to say.
Oh, that was my thing when I was a kid, was tabletop gaming. And,
Yeah.
you know, your parents could actually drop you off at the hobby shop with a sandwich and you spend 8 hours there playing games, you know?
Yeah. I remember back in the day. Yeah.
What you're describing is the shop there. So in my neighborhood, there's a game shop outside of it. It's exactly that, where people show up at like 8 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday. They game, and it's everything too. So when you come visit Colorado, I'll take you to my game shop. And they sell all the consumables too. So yeah, it's so cool. And then the basement of Colpar, where we go for the Commies Fest meetings, that's where it's like all gaming. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. You'll love it. So that's cool.
Would love to see it. Like my childhood hobby shop is closing his doors this year. He's retiring. Yeah, he's well into his 80s. I started going to him in 1979, and rightfully so. Nobody wants to buy it, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with Sprue Brothers and Andy. Like online is king.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gaming is what kept him alive all these years.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm up there this year, I'm going to go say goodbye to Jim and wish him well. And, you know,
what's the
pick
shop?
up a few last items. Men at Arms Hobby Shop.
Men at Arms. Is that in the city or?
No, it's in Middle Island, New York. It's in the center of Long Island. So
nice.
Yeah, he's been there since 1978, I believe. So,
wow.
There's nobody to replace him.
Yeah.
That's
hard.
the one thing that's lost in this hobby is the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that got me back into not just the gaming, but back into armor modeling. Was he had brought some Verlinden stuff back in the late 80s, and that totally sank me back into armor.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was Francisco Verlinden.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about the hobby shops. You know, I think the main reason Colpar is so successful out here is it's more than scale modeling, but they have a ton of scale models, but they create an environment where people want to come to the shop. You know, they got the gaming area, they got really cool RC stuff, but and counterintuitively, they actually hold a swap meet in their basement twice a year, maybe even 3 times, where they invite people to come basically do a stash dump. And it gets people in the store. And I give a lot of credit to the owners of Colpar. They do it right. And what they actually just did is they purchased another hobby town in Littleton, Colorado, not too far away from me. So they have a good formula. And I think, you know, if you ever go to Andy's, he's got one of those formulas too, in terms of creating that environment. But I just saw the pictures of Men at Arms, and oh man, you look at the shelves and it's, you know, it throws you back, man. I see a copy of Allied Axis. Pictures.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Hence, I got a whole bunch of rule books here, so I'm a rules whore also.
Yeah. Man,
I would buy rule books and rule books and rule books, and I mean, we played some really good games over the years. I actually, before I moved down here, I belonged to we played in one guy's home. And
Oh, cool.
It was 8 of us every Wednesday night, and most of them were all retired social studies teachers. And I'm the kid in the batch, 55 years old. I'm the kid, you know. And we would play. All right, what do you guys want to play next week? Why don't we storm the beaches in Iwo Jima? And we'd come in that next day, and he had an 8x8 table, and it was all beach with landing crafts and objectives, and everybody would get a platoon or a couple squads or whatever it is, and that was your squad. The same thing with American Rev, or we would play American Civil War, or one of my favorite was Ancients. We used to play Ancients. And we had these big boo-boo dice, we called them, and it would be arm, leg, foot, head, and they're just sitting there clobbering each other with clubs and spears, and you roll the boo-boo dice. You're like, all right, these 3 guys have a head wound. This guy broke his arm.
Boo-boo dice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but it's nothing like having a cup of coffee with a bunch of guys, and you're just hanging out for the night, and having a good time. So, But that type of gaming is kind of being lost as well in a way. It's kind of kind of going to the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah, I agree with it in the States. In Europe, it's still huge.
It's big.
It's huge over there. Especially, of course, you'll have the British armies, the British National Army, everything. But their English Civil War games are huge. They're just massive. But it is definitely dying over here. I think the only thing that, in my opinion, again, if we use this is Grant Mayberry's opinion, is that Games Workshop, Warhammer, Age of Sigmar is keeping that alive over here.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, I got to bounce. You guys keep going. I got to bounce.
Okay.
You guys,
Scott, have a great day.
Take care.
Cheers,
Thanks
Scott.
a lot. This is awesome.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you later, man.
The only problem I see with Games Workshop is it's hard for kids to get involved because it's so expensive today.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
We used to
Definitely
buy
agree.
the Men at Arms shop that he was looking at. He used to buy the blisters, right?
Mhm,
He'd take all the figures out of the blisters and put them in trays.
mhm.
And you would tell him, I want this figure, this figure, this figure. And you would buy the figures for like
Right.
75 cents a piece, 60 cents a piece. That's when I started buying my stuff. And
Mhm.
you could build your armies that way.
Right.
But today you go buy a set of 10 figures, it's 60, 70 bucks.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. The Games Workshop is no joke. It's expensive.
Yeah,
And
it is. But good stuff. Good quality.
yeah, it is.
games.
It's quality. You're paying for quality. Yeah, you are.
Right.
They fit.
but
They're fun. You can build them quick.
Yeah. Build them quick and
Yeah.
paint them nice. So
Yeah, Kill Team actually kind of saved that company too.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was just gonna mention.
Necromunda kill teams. Like they even have it built into the new Sigmar box. It just was released this week. That is, you can play squad games instead of build the full armies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So they're learning.
Which the skirmish games are really the way to go today. Half hour, 45 minutes you can play, and you can even play those games in a tournament thing. The one of my favorite games from years ago, and I can't think of the name. It was a Games Workshop game, but I had the gladiators, and you had witch hunters, gladiators, and that was a skirmish game. I can't remember.
I can't remember the name of that either.
Game. But the other one was Blood Bowl. We used to play the football game, which was a lot of fun too.
Yeah. That's gaining ground again also. So, it's surprising what's happening. So
here's the one I want to come back. What's the one with the ships, the spaceships, those grand stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh, Demon Christmas.
I want that to come back because I have a couple of those old time figures.
Yeah. Well, the whole micro Warhammer thing is hitting too. So
That's a neat idea.
Yeah, they're making it a lot smaller, so you can buy massive armies and in the ships
They're doing it in the sense of Flames of War.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's, so gaming has been a big part of my life. I don't play anything anymore. I'm more into the modeling, but I will never get rid of my game pieces. They're too sentimental to me right now. Yeah. Those are the ones where my kids are going to sell after I pass for $1. They'll take $1. $2 with the carry bag.
If they only knew.
Right, exactly. I had the guy at the Games Workshop down here in Nashville tell me that those pewter figures are worthless.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're sick.
Yeah.
I see.
It may
I
not
don't,
be.
yeah, I don't agree with that. But what's
No.
interesting, Frank? Do you watch Squidmar on YouTube?
I do.
He loves those old pewter figures.
Yeah, he does.
Loves them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is something that people saw. They go after. Now, I have this old Bible.
Oh
Right.
man.
Every figure Games Workshop ever made up until 2006, I think.
Wow.
2006, 2007. So, but they are worth something. Now, granted,
Yeah.
the new figures today, you can do poses
Yeah.
where you couldn't do the multiple poses with the metal stuff back then. You
Right.
just bought those same 10 figures and you fielded 5 units of those 10 figures, So I do have to, I definitely do like that aspect of it. The only thing I complain about on that sense is that they have not done anything to update Imperial Guard or
No.
Astra Militarum.
No,
And
they just,
I'm an Imperial Guard guy.
yeah. I mean, they've done a couple ever since the Creed stories came out, the new Creed books came out. They've done a little bit to update the Militarum, Astro Militarum also, which was a big surprise.
Yes. I wish they would come out with full Krieg armies in plastic.
Oh, that would be
the
great.
Forge World.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Krieg army, I think if they would do Death Corps, they did one box set, the Kill Team and a smaller box set. But if they came out with the Death Corps army, a huge army, just went crazy with them,
People
I
go
think,
nuts.
oh yeah, they would. Because all you can get is if they brought the horses out with the masks on them and a whole the riders and everything, they would sell like you would. But it's Space Marine, different Space Marine. They're the Space Marine, So
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
they sell. It's like building a Tiger tank. If you produce a Tiger tank, so people are gonna buy it. It's the same with
absolutely.
Same with Space Marines.
And I've never built a Tiger tank in my life.
I've built way too many.
So that'll have to be something in the future. I have plenty of them. So. All
right, guys.
Same thing. Guys, be good. I look forward to hanging out again.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, man.
This is
awesome.
This is a lot of fun. But, JB, I do want to hit you up too once you get that printer fired up.
Yeah. Let me know what you want.
The transmission, that 1/16 scale Sherman transmission.
I got you.
If you're in the realm of doing some stuff, if you can just add that.
Oh, of course, not a problem at all. It's
I wish somebody made interiors. I wish people made interiors for those kits.
Yeah, so there's a few options. Certainly, we can scale up stuff on cults, and then I know David Parker over at AFE Club's going to have some interior stuff. So
for the Shermans.
Yeah. I know he's done a transmission. I think Spud swapped the one I gave him to the one that Parker just came out with. So yeah, and the Achilles kit's nice. I mean, you just got to add that little bit of forward compartment, seats, transmission, and that control panel. So keep it simple.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be done fully, but you got to have something in there because you can see down through the turret, and if you leave the hatches open.
Bingo.
It's really screaming for a little bit of detail.
Yeah.
To fill that space. But the other thing is, I think we were talking about the tracks. The tracks are just somebody makes them and they're like $250 for a set of tracks. I'm like, that's twice the price of the kit.
Yeah,
it's tough.
That's so we'll just use the kit tracks on that. But with that being said, guys, I do have to get my day rolling.
All good. Yeah. Cheers, Frank. Thanks for all the time. This has been awesome.
Thanks, man.
We should just do this on a regular basis. No record, just hang out.
Yeah.
BS,
I'll probably be on later. I'll shoot you a Zoom link. So this has been great.
Yeah, definitely. Shoot me a Zoom link.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Be good. Have a great day.
Yeah.
See you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.